Okay, so show me how to unmute, because I don't want to pack Scott off. Right there, just hit that button. And same thing over here. Okay.
Just the opposite.
Thank you.
When the air goes off, it's not so comfy when the air seems on, and I'm freezing.
So I got this heavy coat. I thought it was supposed to be cold today.
70.
When you walk around outside, it's yeah, I went out.
So we have a 2-year-old grandbaby, a 2-year-old. Yeah, that's when it gets really fun. When you get the little baby one and then the one running around. Yeah. So it's pretty
Okay, so they wait to see their first choice and their second choice.
then. Yeah. It's getting really cold.
And when I was on this one, we're starting to go ahead and switch. You
It was just like,
Okay.
I'm like happy tears.
I changed your mind.
I was like,
No more choices.
I love it.
I'm not gonna study if it's cold like this. You can't, I don't think you can
Like
open
your
it.
chase started.
I don't think, I think it's
Oh my
locked.
gosh, it made me cry.
Well, go get, no, go get his brother.
And then,
And then we'll fix it because it's too cold.
3 hours.
She's gonna turn her head. Oh my gosh. So if I have any questions, I can come ask you.
very, very, very upset. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's hard to share.
I'm gonna share. There's some food out there. Yeah, but there's property. I know who to call. I know who to call. I have looked at different things on that.
Like, they'll grow into it, you know, when they start to get to where they can both run around and play together. Yeah. When the baby cries, it's like, what's that? What's that? He's super chill. He's like, okay. Super quiet, you know, only see when he needs something, you know.
Your client? Okay. Like what?
Her speech. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, but I didn't know if it was great when he signed a rap. He's sweater.
Oh, yeah.
So it hasn't been something.
No.
That's the key.
My phone was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
He's kind of getting discouraged.
Because it's on, that's the first thing is like, it's trying.
I was very impressed.
He's not my first. Yeah, right.
Yes, it does. That is what.
I'm gonna go get my pudding jacket.
I'm super impressed. I'm like, I wish I was your
you need it.
Thank you.
How are you? Good. Do you want to just pull the chair? We're on like side.
It's not worth the using of the body, it adds up. It looks good on your face.
That's a good idea. Congrats, Joe. Likewise. Not a bad idea. Well,
Thanks, Bob, appreciate it.
oh, yeah.
I'll ask him.
All right.
So you can. I'll ask you. She wants to expire something. Oh, she's not opposed to it. Doesn't, I mean, I just.
No, I don't. Great. No, I don't during the week, but on weekends, like once a year.
Okay.
Cool. That work? Oh, man.
I do love
Might have to get a little closer.
I used to, but my wife really stopped.
Unless you give it a.
And I met with Tristan. I'm not gonna get that.
question is gonna be, how are you?
Okay.
I think it's gonna be cash or financing.
Oh, wow, okay.
Do you have any other properties?
None's in the office.
How much money do you have?
None.
It's a long way. It takes too long.
Oh, that's it? Nothing happened, that's the problem.
Thank you.
I got to embarrassing you.
Have you ever heard of a
We do need to talk.
foundation of
Video.
compliance inspection?
We need to talk, and I haven't seen the final product yet.
It's up. Look at my.
I'll need all these.
Those guys.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna reread it.
Sorry, I'm just standing right in the middle of the door.
Oh, sure.
Let's go take yours. Okay. Well, I got, yeah, well, then behind us.
Who doesn't have a handout?
I can move this up over. One side. Okay, I gave them all to you. Okay.
He's a gentleman, so
Hey, Greg,
he doesn't know me.
isn't it MTM and RIP?
Yeah.
What do you say, baby?
I actually talked to you on the phone last Saturday. I'm Crystal Washington.
Yes.
How are you?
This is part of the last Saturday.
Now we're all gonna-
Yes, that's true.
Jim Crystal's office.
Watch it.
How's it going?
Around we go.
No, my dad likes
There you go.
Maybe get a table back here?
Oh, you got that?
He's also so he stays very busy. I usually do all the classes, the fun stuff. Like budget, finance. He'll probably just be showing me.
Oh, perfect.
How many don't have a sheet? Still you?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Go back and forth about it.
Wow, okay.
You said help me.
Somebody can't count. I was told there'd be 10 of you.
Just so popular, back here, they need one.
Gentleman has been patiently on the corner.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Raise your hand.
I'm not even supposed to RSVP for this class.
Then I have no idea. Everybody's welcome. Everybody's welcome.
Did somebody else need one? I don't know.
Very cool. I mean, it's a small island.
That's it, okay.
Thank you, Don.
How
Appreciate it.
No, I was actually on news report and doing real estate, so I worked for Hawaii News Now.
My name's Greg Deering. I love coming here. It's a great place. The culture that's built in this market center is it's noticeable. So I love coming here, and the new building's nice. But and I know most of you. So if you've been to one of my classes, this will be a little different. This class, you're kind of like the guinea pig. So what I need is when the class is over, you to stay around for 5 or 10 minutes. And this class might be over in an hour and a half. So this is the first time I've taught it, so we're gonna kind of catch the flow of it and see how it works. But I really would value some feedback because I never want to teach. And it makes me nervous when Avis tells you all you have to be in a mandatory course. I'm like, crap, you know, because there needs to be some value. And if there's no value, then there's no point in teaching. So I'm getting ready to, you know, I'll talk about it in a few minutes, but I was working before I got here on another class we're getting ready to do on content management and some interesting research that I've been coming across. And it's going to change our property management business. And every time I've thought about it in the last 4 or 5 days, I've thought of Tom. Because I don't do Facebook. I hate Facebook. I hate Facebook. And I don't do Facebook. But when I get on it once a week, I can see that Tom's done something on there consistently. So Tom should be my role model of, don't you do live and stuff like that? Yeah.
Live or almost live, that's what I said.
Okay. But it's real interesting because the dynamics of everything is changing. I'm 61 years old. About 3 weeks ago, I found out how a fax machine worked. I mean, it's just, it's amazing what's going on. Last week, I figured out the internet's going to be here for a while. I'm trying to understand what this concept of all these things are. And the problem is when you go talk to someone about it who's really nerdy, they throw up on you. If you're not on Pinterest, if you're not on this, if you're not on this, if not on this, I'm going, just, I don't need to know how to drive the Indy 500. Teach me how to get out of my parking lot. You know, I need some of this. But the research that I've been doing recently has been phenomenal as far as how, it just boggles my mind. I cannot comprehend how much media is being posted per minute. Per minute, and I can't even understand that. There'll be more media posted in the next 18 months than there has in the last 60 years. I can't comprehend that. And part of it is, I'm not real bright, but part of it is, it's a phenomenal amount of content that's there. So, and I'll get off to what we're going to talk about in a minute, but what we're changing in our company is, we're looking at every question that's been asked more than twice a quarter, and we're going to answer them. We're going to answer them proactively. And when I write this next class and go into that, I've already got 75 video topics that agents need to put on their website.
Wow.
Now, y'all have to do them. I'm just coming up with a list. But in this market center and the Round Rock Market Center, they are cutting edge. They're bringing this stuff in here and making it easy. So old dogs like me aren't afraid of this stuff. And it's once you get over the hurdle, it's pretty phenomenal and pretty easy to do. But it's amazing on how much is out there. And the whole world is changing, as we know. Real estate's changing. But the consumers are changing. And my children literally were explaining some of this to me, going, everything you do is answered beforehand. And that's what we're looking at, how to answer every question before they're asked. Because a lot of people are doing internet searches at 11 o'clock at night, drinking a beer in their underwear on their couch. And you want them to stay on your website longer and longer and longer, and you want to answer, because what I just discovered was 70% of all the business decisions people make are before they call you. Stop shaking your head like you knew this a week ago. I just found this out. So this is a big deal with you. I know you. So it's been phenomenal what's out there. The reason I wrote this class, and I worked on it with another guy, so I'm going to go through a couple slides that aren't going to be pertinent to us. And again, y'all are guinea pigs. Tell me what's important and what's not. We'll refine the classes. 23 years ago, I started with J.B. Goodwin. And everyone said, work with investors. Crap, I didn't know how to sell a mobile home. I didn't know how to sell a lot at that time when I'm starting. But there's such a fear of working with investors that the investors are smarter than you. And some of them, Tom, don't get offended, are way smarter than you. But most of them are just mom and pop. They're just like us. That's the majority of the investors out there. So we're gonna get into a part of this where we're talking about, and I'm gonna skip most of it unless you want it. But it's, what is ROI? What is, but a lot of that, I've been doing this 23 years, I've never had an investor ask me. I've never had them ask me what's cash on cash. They've never asked me any of this stuff. Because the majority of my investors are 1 or 2 properties. And here's what they want to know. Is it going to appreciate? And am I going to cash flow? Has anyone worked with investors that want anything different than that? 1, 2. What do they ask for?
Mine, a lot of mine don't care so much about it cash flowing, because a lot of mine are taking out 15-year loans. So they know they're gonna be out of pocket a little bit.
That's slide number 12. No, that's a good point. That's exactly what's out there. What about yours?
Appreciation rate, or they want, if it's multifamily, a certain amount of duplexes to or units to cover at least 70 to 75% of the mortgage.
Okay. So it doesn't even have to cover the mortgage.
No, they want up to 75% covered.
Okay. How many of y'all knew that? That people aren't even looking at cash flow sometimes. I had an investor who bought a property in Austin, and man, it was gorgeous, it was unbelievable. And his note was $8,000 a month, and he bought it. And he called, and I spent quite a long time on the phone with him, and finally, after about the 3rd or 4th time I was talking to him, I said, let me ask you something personal. Why in the heck did you buy this? Because the best I can get you is $3,300 a month. So he's writing a pretty big note. He was, at that time, a really, really high-paid lawyer in Washington, D.C. He was retiring in 3 years. He needed to establish residency in Texas 2 years prior to his retirement, not to get the Washington, D.C. tax forever. He goes, I'll make this loss up in 3 years. How many of y'all think that way? So you have to talk to your investors on what they want, and it's not necessarily cash flow. So as we get into this, we'll talk a little more as we go on. But 5 questions you must ask to help your client buy the perfect rental property. All right, so this is who I am. Okay, how to double your income. First off, you know how many agents come, if you sell them something or help them buy something nationwide, how many of the clients come back to the person that sold them that property for the next transaction? 13%. 87% either hate you or they can't remember your name. And the majority is they can't remember your name. If they could remember your name, they'd use you. So what does this tell us? You kind of need to listen in the team meetings at Keller and when they talk about putting a database together and having so many touches, because that works. That works. When I used to sell, and I have not sold in 14 years, this doesn't sound like big money anymore, but it was back then, it was 14 years ago, I personally sold $8 million worth of real estate. That was like the 3rd highest in Keller Williams in the Round Rock Market Center at that time, maybe the 2nd highest. I think my average price was like $150 million back then. So it was just interesting. But 99%, exactly 99% of my business came from referral last year. That's the best way to make it, okay? That's the best way. It's the cheapest. They walk in, they're already trusting you. But here's what a lot of them didn't know. Do you work with investors? Because I had a client do that. They went and bought an investment property and they told me later, 2 or 3 years later when it came up in a conversation, I didn't know you work with investors. Are you telling your clients that you work with investors? Or are you scared, like I was the first year or 2, thinking I was ignorant of it, and I didn't want to go after those investor crowds? Because investors, and you have to get away from, it's not the institutions you're necessarily going to work with. First off, you really don't want to work with them. And 2, you're not at their league. They want a lot of money behind them to make sure you're there and up and running and taking care of this. So generally speaking, you're not going to work with the big institutional investors. So who are you working with? Mom and pop. Folks just like us. And they're generally gonna buy 1 or 2 properties every 3 years. Wouldn't you like to have somebody keep coming back? Also, don't investors know investors? Don't they sit around at water cooler or coffee pot or something and talk, look what I just bought? You know they're talking about what they just bought, because they're excited. They're excited. So you need to tell your clients you can help them in buying rental property. And what you want to do is guide your investors to the perfect property for them. And some of them will be like my client that bought this house that was losing money. And some of them will be from California with California money, and they're just stupid when they make a decision. Because they're not going to listen to you. I understand this is a $250,000 house, and it would be $1 million in San Francisco. But it's still $25,000 overpriced here. But after the second or third time of telling them, they're big boys and girls. Let them make their own decision. And I don't mean do something ugly, but just let them make, because sometimes you might not know what their real motivation is. Some investors buy properties to lose money. Why would they do that? It's taxes. It's taxes, because literally their accountant told them to go buy something that does not cash flow. Okay? So you want, it's not about you, it's about them. If you tell them 17 times, don't buy the 900 square foot house on East Austin and expect it to cash flow at those prices, and they still do it, let them do it. It's their money, okay? But it needs to be from them. Once they'll do it, they'll come back and they'll tell a friend. Most investors are mom and pop investors, 1 or 2 houses, that's it, okay? I love working with them because they're scared, they listen, and you can build trust with them real fast. And once that trust is there, it's huge. So what do we want to do? Well, they come to you and they say, I want to buy an investment property, but I have a couple questions. What should I buy? What would you recommend to them? Tom?
A house that, I don't know, it's gonna have, I don't know what, I do, let me think, I'm scammering. I
Okay.
would think that they should buy something that's a below average price that can have a good rent based on
Okay.
it.
Okay? So, if they say, what should I buy? I quiz them more. What are you looking for? What do you have in mind? Do you have experience in anything else? Some of your investors might own 15 properties in Phoenix. And this is a new foray into the Central Texas area. So ask them, what are you looking for before you start giving recommendations? Okay. Where should I buy? In this town, Central Texas area, it's phenomenal what you can get. And it's just, the difference is amazing on what's going on. And it goes on and on and on. I'm not going to list all the areas. But Bill, you work out Harker Heights area. Somebody walks in there and sees a $200,000 house. It might not be of value, or it might be of value. But it's not going to be the same as a $200,000 house in East Austin. So you kind of need to know what area and what they're looking for, okay? Where is a good rental area, okay? Start asking questions. What kind of tenants do you want? Now, you're in danger of fair housing, but there kind of needs to be something. For instance, if, let me go back. We'll go into the slide of this in a minute. But here's why you ask what kind of tenants you want. Okay? 4 blocks from the University of Texas is going to have a different tenant base than Sun City. Bill is going to have a different tenant base in the Killeen-Fort Hood area versus Pflugerville. So a lot of times you're trying to look at what kind of tenants they want, because they all have their positives and they all have their negatives. And that's part of what we're doing. So you're either going to deal with college students, okay, or where do you want those tenants, I'm sorry, where would tenants want to live? Obviously, college students want to be around colleges. Parents of college students don't want to be around colleges. Right? What physical attributes do you want? What construction, year built, pool, yard? They're all coming from different areas. And what might be a big yard to them is not a big yard here. Or maybe they don't want a big yard. They don't want maintenance on it. They want xeriscape. They want, going back to Sun City, they'd like a property where someone else is going to maintain it because then they know there's consistency with the yard. It's all going to be different. How do they know if it's a good deal or not? These are the questions you're going to get. Okay? So, here's what we need to understand. I wish the clicker worked, sorry. Start asking questions. The client's time horizon, 5 years from retirement, 35 years from home. What is their motivation for buying? What do they want to do? Do they want to flip it? Do they want to hold it? What do they want to do? Is it cash flow or appreciation? We just talked about that. It is not uncommon to have people move in here, understand there's not going to be cash flow for a couple of years, and be here for appreciation. We're seeing a lot of that in Austin, not as much as before. Nashville's seeing it right now. Nashville's probably 2 years behind, 3 years behind where Austin is, and they're looking for appreciation. I have a friend in Memphis. They're looking for no appreciation, none, zero. They're trying to get cash flow, and they're trying to keep their air-conditioned units at the property because they're stolen so fast. Part of his checklist on his property management company is the day the tenants get notice, they put them on a watch list. The day they move out, that morning they have to remove the air conditioner. That's the way they manage because they're stolen within an hour. But here's the point. On that property, you think it's going to appreciate much. It's a war zone. It's a war zone. But you can buy a $50,000 unit there and have it bring in $750 a month. See what they're putting up with? They're looking at cash flow. And he owns $1,200. Do the math. You can lose a couple of air conditioners when you're doing that. He personally owns $1,200. Okay. Recommending. So what we need to understand, the risk tolerance. What are they looking for? Your experienced clients are going to be have a little different risk tolerance than the other ones. When my parents are 87. So 5 years ago, my dad decides he wants to buy a property for a rental. And so he's bugging me and bugging me and bugging me, and I see him twice a week. So every Sunday after church, this conversation is, come back here. Where are we at on this rental? I do not want my parents to buy a rental. I own a management company. I do not want them to buy a rental. So finally I find him a deal. And it was a heck of a deal. It was a foreclosure out in Hutto. It originally sold for $172. My dad walked into it for $126. Did pretty well. He was cash flowing. But I knew I was in trouble when my mother had to see the house. It's her money too. And she walked in and said, I could just live here. I went, it's all done. It's over. Now here's what my mother said, I can just live here. She's 84 on a cane. Okay. This is a 3,200 square foot house, all bedrooms up. And she seriously says, I could live here. We're in trouble. And we were, and the best day of my life recently was when they sold it. So, but what do they understand? My dad didn't, and my dad's not stupid. He's not stupid at all. He was really a smart guy. But first off, he hadn't been in the workplace in 30 years. So things changed. But also, he had no clue what went on in this. Like, there was an HOA. He had to pay that. That I told him 19 times about. But when the HOA bill came in, he was complaining about that. That he had to get renter or special insurance. That it was higher than his insurance, and he didn't understand that. So there was a lot of hand-holding, and there should have been a lot more explanation on the front end. You need to know what the tolerance is. And oh, by the way, let me remind you, or tell you what my last 6 months was, because it's a Round Rock vice principal, and she's still there, who during the first 12 months paid 6 months on time, and during not consecutively. The last 6 months, or of the 18 months before I evicted her, was she paid nothing on time. And I had to go through eviction. And the eviction was at Christmas. So my dad's calling me going, you said on your website you can have people out in 27 days. It's Christmas. He goes, I don't care, I gotta pay a mortgage. My dad's a very good Christian man, very kind, but his tolerance level is hit. And I didn't want to go, you don't have to pay a mortgage, you paid the cash. But I'm not arguing with my dad at this point. I said, Dad, let's pretend you're the JP. Okay? You're elected by the local people. And he said, yeah, okay. And I said, and I'm going to put this woman and her 4 kids out, and they're going to be in the paper. Guess who was thrown out on Christmas Eve? And I said, do you think a judge that wants to be reelected is going to do that? I don't care. I said, I don't care what you think. Do you think they're going to do it? So it took us like 37 days, and he was mad the whole time. You need to know their risk tolerance. You need to know there's going to be an expense. This is very similar. I mean, it's not if something's going to go wrong, it will go wrong eventually. But if they have a stock, do they call their stockbroker every time it goes down? Maybe. If they do, you don't want them as a client. Because the stock market, the stockbroker has no more control over the stock market going down than your property manager does over the tenant walking out. But you need to, this is where a lot of people don't do a real good job, and they need to talk to them about what's your risk level. What do you want to do? If you're working with experienced investors, like I think you have, you don't have to have much of this talk, do you? They get it. They understand that things are going to happen. But your first time or even your second one, you need to tell them it's going to happen. So, does the client need to live there? Are they planning to live there? Why is that important?
Taxes.
Okay. Taxes down the road.
Well, I mean, if you live 2 out of the 5 years, are we talking that, or are we talking?
No, I mean, if they're buying the house and they want to live, we get clients all the time from like California. I hate this state. I hate this state. I want to move. Well, you and 25 million other people said, just don't come here. But they want to move, and their intention is to come here, and they bought a house, and they want to move here in 2 years or 3 years when they retire or something. You need to know that. That helps you with the upgrades you want to do, the selections of certain things if you need to go in. I'm sorry?
I said property selection.
Property selection, right. And again, that might go back to, here's the house you want, here's the rent you can get, you're upside down. Is this for you? And a lot of people say, heck yeah, that's no problem, because that's where we want to live, and we're locking in a good rate right now, or we're locking in this property right now. So these are questions you want to ask. Is it something that they want to live in, okay? And again, there's no size fits all. It's all, everybody comes from a different angle. I guarantee you we get different priorities in this office right now. We have different age groups, we have different wealth brackets, we have everything. And everyone's going to have an opinion on what they would want to do and what their personal one is. And they can all be right. It's, why do you own Dell and I won't? Why do I own Apple? And, you know, it's just the time of thing that's out there. So again, don't put your personal feelings in this, okay? All right. Who do you want your tenants to be? College students. 55 plus. Military. We have all of those right in this area. Okay? Will you take Section 8? These are questions you have to ask your client. I won't. I have friends that have 800 or 900 properties, and 80 or 90% of them are Section 8. It's the way they built things. And it was driven by their owners' desires. It's not on ours. It's what they want. And there's a lot of safety and security in taking Section 8, they think. What is it?
Check every month.
Check every month. Check every month. But you have to educate them on the downside. When they move out, there ain't no security deposit, and you can't come after the government. So there's some, it's a risk-reward thing. But again, there's no wrong answer. Okay? College students, what are the advantages? They'll usually pay more rent. We manage some properties up here in Georgetown, right by the college, and holy smokes, are we making a lot of money off them. The owners are. It's really good. And most of the time, it works out real well. So what else, what are the advantages, what other advantages of college students?
Great parties.
Great parties, exactly.
Parents paying the
The
rent.
parents pay the bill.
A lot of times, that's a huge part of that. If you can get the parents to get on a direct line to you, it's perfect. It's perfect. I've managed college students, I have had 0 problems. 0. Because when the kids went in and destroyed and did $5,000 worth of damage, I called the 4 guarantors and said, here's the bill. I said, where do we mail it to?
And as a grad of Southwestern, it is a private school that is not cheap to get into, so if you're renting to those people, you're typically having,
They have some funds.
yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's what you need to educate your owners on. Because they might not want to, because the very first one I did, we had an owner walk in, unbeknownst to us, met us there, and he said, when's the move-out inspection? I said, tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. This guy's in California. He's sitting in a rental car in front of the house at 8 o'clock the next morning. Crap. You know. Oh, it's such a pleasure to see you. I mean, we want to do our own walkthroughs, and he walked through, and this guy, I thought he was going to have a stroke. You know, everything was, oh my God, oh my God, every time I'm going, if this is too much for you, we don't have to go inside, you know. I mean, it was pretty rough, you know. And he was freaking out, and he's going, and finally he was mad at me and turned, and I was training a new person. He was mad at me, and he says, why isn't this upsetting you? And I said, because in 2 weeks we'll have it done, and we have a new tenant moving in 3 weeks. Why does it upset you? He said, the damage they did. And I said, let's see, fresh paint over there that you don't pay for, instead of the 4-year-old paint you have. I said, new carpet in here that you're not paying for. I said, brand new sod in the backyard. I said, explain to me how you're getting screwed on this deal. They need to be educated as they go, but you need to tell them ahead of time. As long as they got deep pockets, like Megan said, who cares? Break a window, it's all right, doesn't matter. I'm not getting upset about this, but your owners will. So you kind of need to talk to them. Okay? What are the disadvantages? More wear and tear, and that's the truth. Every one of them has a dog that says they're not going to bring a dog in. Every one of them. You got roommates. So, and I told this story before, it's a true story. My middle daughter, who knows everybody, and was on a Dragonettes when we lived in Round Rock, and everybody's her BFF. I mean, everybody. She's just a social butterfly of the family. So she and 3 other her BFFs are going to move down to San Antonio and go to school down there. And 2 weeks later, I'm getting a call, Daddy, so-and-so is doing this, and about 4 days later, Daddy, kind of like, you picked them. But it got to a point where the other parents were getting called, 2 of the other parents. Because this girl was partying all night long. I had watched her get raised. They had such a tight leash on that kid all the way. When she got down there, man, it was an explosion. You mean they sell beer? You know, it was just amazing what went on. But what do? Now you got roommates, you got disturbances. You walk into a unit and all of a sudden each door has its own lock where it didn't before. It goes on and on and on. Are you going to allow multiple payments in? Then you get into he said, she said, and collect. So there's issues here, but keep in mind, more rent. This goes back to your tolerance, what your client wants, okay? But as Megan said, more money. You get co-signers. And that takes care of everything. But again, you want to educate your clients on what type of tenants do they want, okay? Oh, and a lot of neighbor complaints. So we get on a first name basis with some of these people, with some of the police officers. We literally do. Typically shorter term leases. It's not uncommon to come in and they last for a 6-month or a 9-month. It's not uncommon at all. And you have to your owner has to make a decision if that's in their best interest. Let's do that. It's not hard, okay? 55, okay? A lot less wear and tear. A lot less, okay? They're not generally known as big partiers. Okay? What else?
Usually pretty stable.
What's that?
Stable.
Stable. Generally, income's pretty stable. Not anymore, but when I was a kid at 55, they're retired. And a lot of times they've had the house paid off and they're moving somewhere else, or they got the kids through college or anything like that, but those gifts continue taking at this day and age. So what other advantages there might be?
Might pay for cash, pay with cash.
Pay with cash, they might pay up front. Exactly. They might pay up front. And usually have multiple sources of income. Okay? All right, what are the disadvantages? In most areas in Texas, it's a smaller part of the market. Is it in Georgetown?
No.
It's the exact opposite. It's a growing part of the market. I live off of Jim Hogg, and I moved there about a year ago, and it's just been staggering the amount of places that are coming. For the feeble, the weak, the dementia, I'm just driving by and going, wow. So sometimes when I'm driving by my kids, that one, that's the one. That's the one. You know, this place I saw their construction. Add that one, you know. They can be very high maintenance. Really, really high maintenance. Sometimes they don't understand the difference between, and I'm not making fun, they don't understand the difference between cosmetic and mandatory. Okay? So they can be high maintenance. They come into the office and they always have a story they need to tell you. They're interesting. They like upgrades. This is why we see Sun City do so well. And there's a lot of rentals in Sun City. There's a lot. But they like higher dollar, generally speaking. They want a little more amenities in the home that makes it easier for them. Okay? They love having golf courses, walking trails. A lot of this is very important. Okay? Anything else that 55 plus brings to the table? Death. Well, that could be the short term. Generally, they're not gonna move so much. Once they get in, they're gonna stay, and they're not as flighty as, you know, the 20-year-olds because they're or right out of college, because they're still establishing themselves. They don't know what they're doing, and they're just moving from place to place as they get their roots in. These folks kind of know what they're doing, so generally they'll want a longer lease, and they'll want to renew. Okay, military. What's the advantage? Steady paycheck. It's kind of like Section 8. Even when we had the government shutdown, these boys and girls got paid, right? Unless they were in the Coast Guard. Everybody else did. What else is good about them?
You can go after the money.
What do you say?
You
Go
can
after the money. It's less and less. We used to be able to, many years ago, you could call their commander, call their sergeant, and they'd take care of them. They don't even return phone calls anymore.
Deemed as harassment now.
What's that?
It's harassment now if you call the commanders. A lot of commanders will be involved in personal death.
Yeah, they won't do it with us either. So we just stopped calling. So, but I have a client who's the second highest in Virginia, in the Judge Advocate General's office. So when I call him, I don't know if these guys pay, because he's calling somebody on our behalf. So what are the disadvantages? They could break their lease. Okay? If you're dealing, and I'm generalizing, folks, when I talk about stuff, a lot of times I'm generalizing. I mean, when we talk about over 55, that's one thing, college students. But military, here's the deal, and maybe Bill could comment on this if he's got experience up in that area. But what my friends have seen, it's the 22 through down, 23 down, they're friggin' wild. They'll tear the hell out of everything. They don't care about the lease. They don't do anything. And again, that's that same syndrome my daughter got into with the friend. They're out on their own for the first time. They're a lot less responsible than when I lived in Wichita Falls. I had a captain over here and a major over here. These were family people that were much more established and much more stable. So a lot of times if you can get, and I don't even want to say an officer because it's not necessarily true, but if you can get someone who's a little more tenured or seasoned in there, you're going to get a real stable client who generally cares about the environment, cares about protecting the property, wants to make sure that they don't do anything, so they have to, you know, they want to leave on good terms too, because those folks move a lot. They move a lot, and they see the value in getting a good recommendation a lot of times. You know, where a kid doesn't. You know, he doesn't even know if he's gonna be in the service in 6 months, some of these, you know, they haven't decided this stuff. So it just happens to be in the military. So, anything else with the military? The big thing is you need to inform your owner that they can move, they can break the lease with no penalty, no harm. And that'll scare some of your owners a little bit, especially the first time, because what your owner's looking for is guaranteed rent that first time. They're just a little nervous. Okay, so what type of property fits the tenant? Is it a condo? Why should investors beware of a condo?
Limitations on the number of places that can be rented.
Okay, first thing,
Shared walls.
shared walls, okay? What's the thing, Tom?
Limitations on the number of units that can be rented.
A lot of them will only have so many units that can go in there, but, yes, ma'am?
Higher HOAs.
Yeah.
High HOAs,
Or
exactly.
even issues with the HOAs, they could just be a complete mess and
Okay.
you're at their mercy.
Exactly, exactly. Years ago, there was a huge HOA down in, or a townhome place down in Pflugerville, and they'd been cooking the books. And this HOA, and the entire place, right up in Gator, it's all those townhomes down there. The entire place, all the roofs were bad, and there was no money. So when they went in there, and I'm making this number up because I can't remember it, it was like, back then it was $75, it went to like $225 a month. It was just triple or quadruple what it was, and it was onerous to some of these people who just got in. You know, I don't care who you are, if you're buying your first place, either as an owner or a landlord or an owner occupied, most of us were struggling to get in that first place. So when you're going, okay, all right, if we don't watch cable, we can get in here and get our feet going. And then somebody comes around and says, you've now gone from 75 to 225, it's a hit. So this can be part of that, you're right, okay? What about a townhouse? Anything? A little less risk, but a lot of the same risk bleeds over. What about single family?
Just like maintenance.
More maintenance. Single families have yard. Single families have fences. Fences in Central Texas usually don't go well together. They look great until the builder leaves the subdivision. And you find out they put a quarter of a bag in the post.
Yeah.
So, and a 60, 70 mile an hour wind, you got stuff coming down everywhere. All that. But there's different issues with the single family. A lot of times there are less issues, and a lot of times they're more desirable. Because folks in a certain age group just, what do the tenants want? And this is what you need to talk to your owners about. What does the tenant want? They want a decent house, a place to live. They'd like to have a backyard where the kids can go, they can put a swing set up, or they can have a barbecue. They like to have a garage, and they want to be left alone. They just want to enjoy their life and be part of the community. They don't want a lot more of that. But take that fence away where the kids can't go out in the backyard or the dog can, it escalates it pretty fast. Okay, manufactured house, home.
Find somebody else.
Find somebody else. And it's the maintenance. Special tools. They don't have a 3/4 inch anything on there. It's go to that place. It's kind of like buying a Kia. You know, you have to use that little thing they brought you because it came in the package because none of your other tools work in there. But manufactured homes can be tough. Okay. What about a mobile home?
Same.
Not as much so. Not as much. And there can be big money in mobile homes. Big money. I won't touch them, but there can be a lot of money in that, especially if your owner starts to buy gently used and puts them out on the site. They can make a lot of money. Okay? Multi-unit, duplex, triplex, fourplex? Why do you say no?
No, I say yes, that's easy money. I like
That's the most
multi-unit.
popular I've
Yeah.
seen with the first time.
What's the rent?
Lots
That?
of rent.
Twice the rent.
Twice the rent, right? And Megan, you said you're seeing more and more of those that are intentionally coming in and wanting that?
Yeah, for their first time to get into it to, start leveraging for additional properties.
So they're a little more serious investor coming in.
I've worked with a couple that they in some sort of class and they're always looking at a duplex and we bought a couple so far.
Good.
Yeah. But it's some class that that they go to, and I
Mhm.
guess, I don't know if there's more of those around.
Well, there's a lot of good stuff out there.
I was gonna ask, cause I have someone who's looking for that because they feel like, oh, well, if the rent on one side isn't gonna have the other, but I find that some duplexes aren't necessarily any less than a single family residence, so, I mean, are you finding?
I'm finding very few deals out there on
Yeah.
anything right now.
Yeah.
I think everything's,
Not cash flowing like they used to.
what's that?
The duplexes aren't cash flowing like they used to.
Almost nothing is cash flowing like it used to. It's
Well,
a new, no, I mean that, because what do we all do? And we talk about it here in the slide, the 1% rule. You can't, it's pretty tough to find a 1% right now. So is this the new normal, or are we just at a high? Nobody knows. So a lot of times it might be educating your client, you ain't getting that for a while. You wanna buy or not? Because here's what they're also getting, probably a 5% interest rate on an investor loan.
if they're lucky.
Not much more.
Aggressive.
What's that?
It's kind of aggressive, you got a good opportunity.
Yeah, you gotta find it. But how'd you like to lock in a 5% rate? And I know some of y'all are going, oh, that's pretty high. I personally pay 12.5. So, you know, you can balance off. Again, I'm not gonna necessarily have the cash flow right now, but at this interest rate, based on 20, 15, or 30 years, it might be a little more. Now, depending on what you're buying, it might be a little higher. That's just for single families. It's 5 right now, you know. And you might get a little less if you go 15 years. But what's the advantages of a duplex, triplex, or fourplex? Multiple tenants, multiple rents, multiple tenants mean multiple phone calls. Right.
And up there, I was dealing with another guy, he was in the Army, and he would buy one side, and he'd live on the other side for a year, and the next year he'd do it again.
Not uncommon. No. Our friends from the Northeast about 4 or 5 years ago brought us bed bugs.
No thanks.
You ever try to get bed bugs out of one side of the duplex? So, the other thing is, if you get one bad tenant in here on a duplex, you'll run the other one off, and the other one's calling you all the time. All the time. Because the unit on side A, they're jerks. And they really could be jerks. They could be. But again, risk reward. Where's their tolerance? Because it's not about you, it's about what they want. Okay? Okay, so, are the property types fit more of the potential tenants than others? Which tenants? College students could use like a condo.
What?
Which tenants would be more likely to use condo?
If it's a single
I like
story,
the old people.
55.
No maintenance, yard maintenance.
I think both.
Yeah.
Both. We've got them in both. We've got them in
When I
both.
say old people, I am the old people.
I am too. I got it. I was not offended. I don't know if anybody else will. What about townhouse? Same thing. Okay? Single family, which one would appeal?
Military.
Now you're getting into a little different, aren't we? Okay? Would, is this a high priority for college students? Not necessarily. It would be like a dream, but they're acceptable not to do that. What about over 55? Not necessarily. Some of them don't want maintenance anymore. Yes, sir?
Seeing a lot though for the single family homes, like a family would buy the home and then rent out the rooms. They rent out the rooms to college students, like 6 in a house.
You've seen people do that?
That was in Wyoming. There was a lot of that in, what's the name? Laramie.
Okay.
They do that, some parents do that at Southwestern,
Uh-huh.
but there's so much, you've gotta make sure to educate them on the pros and cons, and if they can be willing to lose a couple tenants and have 1 or 2 going at the same time.
Mhm.
But you can get, if the parent is willing.
Premium.
Yeah, you can absolutely get premium. I can tell you there's a house that we were getting $700 a month each room
Room.
in a 4-bedroom house.
I'm paying $650 for my daughter right now in Corpus.
So-
Exact
My
same
brother-in-law
thing.
did that in Kansas.
Yeah.
His son's going to school at some small college in
Right,
Kansas, and he
right.
bought a house for that.
Right. And it's not necessarily
I
bad.
was gonna say that.
It's not necessarily bad. Again, it's not about us, it's about the age, about your client. But you just want to talk them through what there is, okay? But you'll start seeing less and less the older folks get a lot of times, and I'm just, because I go to my parents, and they are, honest to goodness, the youngest in their Bible study. They're 87. I'm watching where they're moving and what they're talking about, other than falling down, being afraid of falling down and how sick they are. They are, or how bad their grandkids are. They're moving a lot. And a lot of this, they're moving into much less maintenance. They just hate mowing the lawn, in August. So, all right. What physical attributes should you look for? How many bedrooms? Is a one bedroom good?
Depends.
Could be. Yes, Megan?
It depends if you're in downtown Austin, if you're near UT, if you've got the right numbers, I mean, it all depends.
Right. Is that what you were saying? Yes. Exactly. There's a one bedroom, I just saw it, the average one bedroom in San Francisco right now is $3,600 a month. It's 703 square feet.
Nice.
And that's the average. So, it's interesting. But how many bedrooms? I mean, that's a factor. We have units that are in Hutto, houses, 2 bedrooms, 2 baths. They're tougher to rent when you're in that community, because that's more considered a family or bedroom community. Take the same place down in Austin, 2 blocks from Georgetown, I lease all day long at a premium. How many bathrooms? The answer to that is, how many females? Because it was me and 4 that I raised. Well, I didn't raise my wife, she raised me. Okay, but bathrooms are an issue. Okay. Your bill, why do we want to know that?
Less maintenance.
Maintenance? What else?
Possible rehab
Paint.
costs, stuff.
Asbestos.
What's that?
Rehab costs, plumbing, all of that stuff.
Exactly.
Fixtures, roof.
Paint. What about paint? Lead-based paint. Who had something else?
Yeah, asbestos.
Asbestos. You are old, Tom, aren't you?
Oh, I'm
Okay.
experienced.
Experienced. Oh, I like
Megan
that.
told me.
Okay. That's good. Okay. Carport or garage? A lot of these people, if they're coming from apartments, they don't care. What are they used to? Nothing. Okay. If you get into Austin more, central Austin, it's not uncommon to see carports down there. It's not at all. Okay. Dishwasher, garbage disposal, interior washer and dryer. Are these important to the tenants? Yeah. Are they more cost to the owner?
Yes.
Yeah. You want to look at the age of those things.
What are your thoughts on providing a fridge or not providing a fridge?
We encourage them to provide a fridge. It's amazing. I don't understand. I've been doing this 13 years. I still don't get this. They'll come and say, we'll rent the property if the owner will provide a refrigerator. I said, okay, I'll bring it by. And I said, what about washer and dryer? They said, we have our own.
Which is more important?
I know, I just wasn't in that culture growing up. I just didn't understand that. So they have a washer and dryer, but they need a refrigerator.
So I found that I've had a lot of out-of-state people, it's just like here, stove is standard in homes,
Right.
fridge is standard. So I'm wondering if it's the influx of all the people from out of the area maybe bringing that?
It could be.
Because I agree with you, it doesn't,
It could be. The other thought was they've been in apartments, and a lot of
Yeah.
apartments will or will not offer a washer or dryer, but they all offer a refrigerator. So that could be the answer. I don't know. Let's take 10 minutes.
Don't be nervous.
Right.
Yeah, just get you that way.
Three units. Living for, want a condo downtown, so it's actually already seen that.
Tomorrow's topic.
This one is small.
Making sure that
The new domain, like in Round Rock.
you call them like.
And why did you say that?
Well, if the new area is, the new domain that's gonna be in Round Rock, that's gonna be, so as soon as it's, the goal would be here to do something. As they're starting to sell them, but the domain is actually, you can get a 1 bedroom or
I'm just like struggling.
I thought your house was and it's like 500.
That makes you never want to go out of town. I know, like, so it takes a long time to get back.
They're like 300.
My house is so
Do you have Kelly?
I'm trying to use Kelly don't work as good up there before Kelly was like great now.
Yeah,
Up there, like chopping up areas, they don't be doing.
because I always pull snaps on our men like areas are up and coming, and the market have a lot of windows, so we have a really algorithms are actually making it hard to find it.
And how it all was done. So now I'm like going through stuff.
So you got a lot of.
Yes, on all that side.
I have about 2 listings coming available, 2 buyers, and an investor. Yeah, so one contract fell through.
I was like, there's about it, like,
And then coming sometimes you get like, you get right here. The FRG and really a good way I started doing it.
and I've watched
Have
them
them come here, people that are GPSing that you're be happy to help them with I yeah, we live in Georgetown now. We are like 1 year and a month ago.
I'm like,
Yeah.
Thinking about moving to the site over here.
She wasn't laying out.
Wesley.
She wasn't laying out what's going on.
I'd be closer to here, but I don't mind the drive from there. It's only like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I do want to get down here.
Yeah, and they will bring the I volunteer for little things, like they wanted instant extra donations, and most of it was cakes for their cakewalk, and toys for their trunk, candy toys for their trunk or treat. And they let me sponsor it with my business stuff. When you said
I'm gonna do that, so I'm gonna do some else. So,
the Welcome Center too, you could, I don't know what the rules are now, but it needs to be a little bit parked out there.
I don't know, I live on my own.
Yeah, it's literally on Sunset.
oh no, second floor.
Yeah.
Go up there and see what I can do.
That's where, two-layer station, everybody kind of try to use
I know, so I know, 3 and
I'll let you know when it's
Major Academy, they'll be coming up here, this summer. They all just stationed here. So, and then, a couple of friends that moved down, San Antonio, they gonna start some people that come here, and they, we don't serve.
Well, the good thing about Keller Williams, you don't have to necessarily have people that come here. Tell them you have a nationwide referral program. So even if they're going to, Fort Polk, you can find an agent in Fort Polk. I found one when we were at family reunion. A client of mine was getting stationed there, wants to get another investment property. So that's a good way to get extra referral money for sure. With the best, no, Amazon. Yeah, Amazon, I hate shopping. It'll come on us on one deal.
Alright.
Yeah, so, let us know if we're here to help, for sure.
Hi, how are you?
How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
No, that's not check it's on, but I kind of checked the dishwasher anyway. But they would never respond, like when I would bring that back. So I didn't, I have personal trying to see how, yeah, well, that's where I'm trying to see how it's exciting. Anyway, so I have, information. One is much as I have, which is not more, not a whole lot, but anyway, just got a house listed, so it was not a home that was purchased in South Austin.
How's the class?
Good.
Yeah, it's good? Perfect. How's the instructor? Let me close the door.
Terrible.
Yeah.
It's been on my calendar for months.
It's kind of, I have a little advantage on that because I have someone trust in my husband.
Usually it's
He does trust me, but
Some days when I think,
they're adjusted.
right, even from mid Friday, I'm like, I'm a pretty good best.
Right.
My company goes,
Well, you're Jim, of course you did. 3-letter names for 1,000.
Jim and Tom. Common.
Oh, there's one.
so you were.
Great, Gary.
Jamie, are they all the same? Well, turkey or chicken or something. Did you eat them? Yes, did you have some dishes?
Purpose with this, yeah.
No, I'm for it.
Guy,
Of course I am.
30-minute drive,
I am
residents
nasty.
of Redmond.
I wasn't able to hear it when I left out.
Says basically the same kind
Thank you.
got banned. So I guess he's out there.
So do we then?
That could be tough.
I have a quick question, because you get the GDDA, property management during,
That's the idea.
for let's say, in this instance, it would be, like 4 months until the actual owner can occupy the unit. It's transferring from an owner to another owner. Both sides are leased with deposits. Essentially, she just needs somebody else to hold it and do the move out.
Oh, they do.
2,400 is correct for both. It's a duplex and
Both sides move out and do just.
April 31st, they're both moving out on the same exact day. They're 3-bedroom, 2 bath. Like I said, rent.
We don't have to handle the disposition of it,
Do you like
just
it?
the owner.
Where did you get it from?
Because I can't get in, he said, she said, I knew what the property was beforehand.
Oh, no.
Only for the security class.
Well, I would request as the buying agent, the buyer's agent, to have those move out inspection docs forwarded over to us from the current property management company. Move in inspection, you know, the reports that
And what
they
they
do.
don't have.
So the,
I haven't even gotten that far yet. So what should I do?
me too.
It's only essentially
Did you
from
get it, Martha?
April,
Not yet.
May, June, July, August, 4 months.
Every time I go out,
She just has never actually, she's purchased land, be investor, she's never actually dealt with tenants.
You got it?
She measures.
She wants live in one and her sister's gonna live on the other side.
Yeah.
So essentially she
Oh,
just,
sorry.
Much higher fee, to be honest with you.
that makes sense, I
Because
get that.
it's short term, and I don't want to get into all, we'll look at the inspection, but we're not getting into
I go to
how the money has to go.
I was thinking about possibly requesting
Yo, really? What do you do?
a inspection based on the condition of the actual inspection report that we get.
Yeah, the problem is, it's all the cosmetic issues.
So maybe we can have
I've seen it off and on for about
We have short-
and it was left out, and it was like outside.
I believe it's called.
Okay,
No, they take it out, it's just where you damn water.
okay.
I've heard about it, I've never been there.
And
But
it's
as far as
not,
managing
just started.
There'll be no
Some
rain.
blankets,
Yes,
but
that's what,
that was
Why would I
taken
do
from the
that?
land outside the dealers you
No,
go.
there it
And
is.
so now it comes out once a day.
When was that?
And so I put it some.
August, I'm sorry, I heard something
So
else.
if it's just a cat food, and
Okay.
so then take it back in, is that what all that?
There's a lot involved for 4 months.
Okay. Let me know.
It's small enough for
Securing funds, looking at their lease, I want to see what kind of lease they have.
And then Cleo reminds me of.
If it's not a standard lease, they might have given them extra days to pay, which screw my accounting.
Like window in the house, I'd be like, hey, I'm hungry.
That's true.
And I'm like, wait, you're not supposed to be on my backyard, you're supposed to be.
It's hard to find a service.
I mean, it's the cat has its personality, like, like now it sleeps on the.
No, it's easy to find. It's just your owners don't pay.
I want to get a tag on.
Okay, I'll look at it for the right price.
That's like,
I mean,
I think it's
so
just
that maybe they travel
like,
to
one
one
match, I've
What do you
had
say?
people come
Moving
in
every
and
day.
no, it's not long enough.
How do you be delicate with that?
I guarantee you I'll do it.
It's good, I change my own price, you focus.
Does that make sense? Okay.
I did
Closes
buy
April
a
30th.
little thing of cat food for it.
So someone would have to be in effect May 1st for collecting the rent.
One,
What about you?
That's a tough transition. 1 day notice to send it.
whatever one is.
We're flexible on these
Prenup
things.
is one.
Okay.
We'll see. And it-
Do you follow what I'm saying? Because
No, I know.
if the deal doesn't go through and it's the end of the day, who gets the tenant's money?
Even if we paid the deposit already, then how are they gonna, they would essentially have to.
Now, you need to make sure
I'm
that
thinking it
the
lists the
deposit is transferred over. And you need to make sure
And
that
it
full
got listed.
deposit
Now they're
is
cool
released.
for the last 2 months.
Because
No money
If they were solar on it with the
I thought about something about that, because I've seen it for several years,
So it's
but
about
now it's
making
adopted.
stuff. They give you $1,000, by the time they transfer over, that ain't $500.
I'm thinking something like that.
You own the
But
$1,000.
as long as I get one, I'll.
That's where you gotta get hammered
It's just
on.
not hitting inside my house.
Okay.
I mean, this is.
Okay, as we wrap this part of this last slide up. Parking. Parking. Is parking an issue?
Yes.
Parking can be a major issue. And your landlords need to know this on what's going on. That, what's that?
No,
Okay, that's fine. I just thought you were, okay. Calling him out on something. If you're in one of my classes before, we managed this unit. I love this unit. I make so much money off of it, I can't see straight. It's a 2-bedroom down on Riverside. 2-bedroom condo. I mean, you literally walk out and you're at the bus stop, you walk 50 feet, and you're across the street from University of Texas Law Center. So we have never had a vacancy in that property, ever. We start advertising that thing 45 days out, we get 10 applications in like two days. It's phenomenal. It's 2 bedrooms with 1 parking spot. Okay? I personally have been there 10 or 12 times. I have never parked closer than 6 blocks away. It's just where it is. And folks need to know, these are issues. In Sun City, can you park anywhere?
No.
Right. It's getting that way. Again, this is what you want to do when you start talking with your owners. They, especially if you're newer into the foray of working with investors, when you come in and ask them these questions, you look smart, you look experienced. And that gives you some bona fides, so sometimes if you don't say something the right way, well, you said the last 9 things right, they'll overlook stuff like that, you know, because you've got a good track record, you're building trust with them. But you're bringing up stuff they haven't thought about. And that's the key here, is make them think and make them answer, okay? Flooring, carpet versus tile, huge issue. College students, I want tile everywhere. Sun City? Maybe not, okay? But my mother's house wants tile or carpet out of everywhere. Why? Trip and fall. She's 87 years old, okay? And she's in good health. But she goes to a Bible study with 4 women who are there all the time suffering some kind of hip ailment from a fall. And I'm not making fun, I'm saying this is just legit stuff that's out there. Other things are, some people might, if they want to move back into the house, what if is it easier to clean tile or carpet if they have a cat allergy? So there's things out there they need to kind of think about. Also, long-term maintenance. That's what you gotta think about when you're doing this. What does the owner want as far as long-term maintenance? And a lot of times, they're going, here's what we want ultimately, but let's just get somebody in and get some cash flow coming, and we'll work toward that. And that's absolutely fine. Large trees. Is that important to some people? What's it do to the value of the property? A lot. A lot. And here's your opportunity to tell them, what are you going to do on landscaping? You want to hold this property 20 years? You know what? Put a tree in now. It'll be a large tree when you sell it. Have them think about it. Okay? Xeriscape versus grass. We see more and more of that. And maybe just portions of the yard they want a xeriscape. In my neighborhood, we live on 1 acre lots. It's not uncommon to see a third of that lot in gravel right now. Just the way it is. And it looks very nice, the way they've got it out there. But again, in-ground irrigation. How confident are they the tenant's going to water? And you might want to remind them of the summer of 6 years ago. 71 days of 100-degree plus. And on those days, there ain't a yard that lived. Not a tenant's yard that lived. Yes, ma'am?
I have a question about that. Because what if the tenant shuts the irrigation off? I mean, can the landlord have the right to lock that box?
No, they don't have a right to lock the box, but that's where you just go back to enforcement of the lease.
Okay.
Enforcement of the lease says you have no excuse not to, and as long as it's not against the law, which I broke a lot at one point, because we kept writing leases saying during the growing season, you must water twice a week and maintain the grass in green condition. Well, I'm enforcing a lease, or trying to, we're in Kyle. It was against the law to water, but only every 10 days. I broke the lease, or put something that was very unenforceable because of the law in there. But sprinklers, you're going, you got no excuse. Don't tell me you left the town for 2 weeks and the lawn died. You know. Fenced yard. Really, really important. For tenants. Not for the owner, for tenants. And that's what we're talking to them about. And most of them, if they're not coming from a condo, will get it instantly. Don't you enjoy your backyard? No? Okay. Pools. How many of your owners are looking for pools?
Hopefully not many.
Hopefully none.
Right.
None. Okay? But that's our market. What if you're in San Antonio?
Still a big liability.
It's a liability, but it's a huge demand. It's a huge demand in San Antonio. Tenants want pools, especially military tenants that are higher officers and above, or even a staff sergeant, master sergeant that's kind of got some experience in things. If they've been in Vermont and they're moving to Texas, one of the selling points to the kiddos is we're going to get a pool. It's a big thing down there, but that's market to market. Here it's not. I would advise them not to. If you're going to give them advice, one, how much value? Y'all sell, I don't. How much value does a pool bring anymore?
Not much. Depends on, more people would talk about filling it in than wanting it.
It's minuscule though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in the scheme of things, it's minuscule. And how many things can break on a pool? Just everything. Yeah. So that's kind of what you want to talk to your owners about, okay? Brick versus stucco, one versus better, or in some of the areas, it literally could be wood or siding. They want to talk about maintenance. You want to, air conditioning, central versus window units. You chuckle. There are places in this town, the entire property has a window units. They're out there. Okay? 1 or 2 story. What's the difference?
Depends on your age.
Excuse me?
Depends on your age.
Exactly right. Okay? How many 2 stories are in Sun City? Okay? And we're very few, if any, exactly, okay? But what's the price per square footage on a one-story versus a two-story sometimes? Okay? So you're looking for deals, it's what they wanna do. HOA, will it even allow rentals? One of y'all brought that up. Some of these townhomes and condominiums and things like that, you're only allowed so many in there. But will it allow rentals? And we get pushback all the time. Sometimes the HOA will come in and say, you can't have those people in here until, we went through this about 3 years ago, they all said, we need the application from the tenant before they can move in. I'm sorry, first off, they've been in 5 months. Pound sand. I'm not giving you someone's phone number, name, social security number, and date of birth. Some guy in Uzbekistan would want that, you know, and it's just, you can't have it. But they'll push back and they'll want some of this stuff. But HOA, okay? Sewer versus septic. Is it an issue?
Yes.
Sometimes. Sometimes. You get out in certain areas though, that's all they have. Does your owner need to know about the upkeep and needs of that? Yes. Okay. All right, what other things are part of a property that they're looking at that are important? Anything else?
Wheelchair accessible, that kind of stuff.
Possibly, yeah. Yeah. What about garage? Okay. So, ask your client to describe the physical attributes of their ideal rental house before you start looking. This is all during the interview process. This is what you're doing. Okay? Because here's one house. That's the actual house. Here's what the landlord sees. Here's what the tenant sees. All right? So, a lot of times you want to consider the process of elimination, where not to buy. Again, if they're coming in from California and they don't have a friend here, they don't have a neighbor, they've only been to 6th Street and they love the hill country, you got off the plane and went to 6th Street and you love the hill country. Okay. They don't know, and they're looking for you, but if you qualified a lot of this stuff ahead of time, this is already going to knock out a lot of these before you get there. So you're not going to have to suggest a lot. If they only want to be in a 55 older community they want to buy, you're not looking at a lot. There's more now than there was, but you've really knocked it down. So college students can't live in Sun City, and most 55-year-olds don't want to live on 6th Street unless they grew up in Austin downtown all the time. Then they're just old, out of work hippies. So the answer to the previous 3 questions almost always answer that question. Where do they want to live? What are they looking for? Okay? What are important? And this is what you want to talk to them about. What's important? Especially if they're going to live here. But if not, where do they see the value? Maybe they've heard about our traffic conditions before they got here. If they haven't, you want to inform them. Okay? But proximity to work, to school, church, medical care. Medical care is more important to some than it is others. School's more important to some to others. I've had clients in the past that when I was selling, they looked at a certain area. How far is it to the airport? That was really, really big to them. I go, why? He goes, I travel 3 times a week. Makes sense. Makes sense. But you want to ask them what's important and start looking at those tenants. We have, how many people in Gerald commute into Killeen or Harker Heights every day? A lot. A lot. Because they don't want to live in Harker Heights. They don't want to go to the schools up there for whatever reason, or not Harker Heights, Killeen, Fort Hood area. They don't want to do that. They've got other things they want to do. These are important things. So if you're moving to, Georgetown, if you're moving to Leander, if you're moving to Gerald, you can still get military folks in here, and you can advertise for them by having a good property. When Scott and White was on a hiring binge for a while, nobody was living in Temple. All the doctors. They were all commuting. They were coming, either living in Round Rock or in Georgetown. and commuting in, because they did not want to live there. There weren't the amenities that they wanted for their children. Okay? Here are our employers, our major employers. Show something like this to your clients. Now here's what's scary about this. This is from 18, and this was from early 18. You can't even get the new ones because it's changing so fast right now. It'll probably be out in another 90 days. But this is what you want to talk about with your investors of why they want to invest in certain areas because of what's growing. You want to be in Austin, you're landlocked, and there's some real pros, real positive things about being in Austin. The rent rates are extremely high. They like the appeal of being in Austin. It's pretty easy to get tenants in Austin. I mean, they go pretty quick, right? But you're landlocked. So where do you want to go? Most people are commuting for jobs. Most people are commuting for, other reasons. So this is where you're drawing from for a lot of your places. And look, we've got half of these companies are already announced that they're going to add on more. But when you go out to, in Leander, I forget if it's on 183 or Palm, 183 I think it is, and there's is it Scott and White?
Yes.
That they just built a freestanding building? These people are real stupid. They don't know where anything's going to happen. They're getting in on the ground floor. That's where the growth is. So a lot of times you want to advise your clients, you're looking for appreciation? Let's go here. How many of y'all would have liked to buy in Gerald 6 years ago?
Sure.
Or Liberty Hill.
Yes.
3 years ago.
Yes. Right. Look at these numbers. This was staggering to me. I knew they were good. I didn't know they were this good. And this is just an example of some of them.
What's the attraction to Kyle?
Land, and you're fighting less traffic sometimes coming in if you're working on like the IRS down there. You only have a 1 hour commute versus an hour and a half. I'm just kidding.
It's cheaper, a lot.
And it's a lot cheaper. You're exactly right. And Kyle, the city managers down there are just darn smart. 4 or 5 years ago, they started putting in, if you notice, some of the exit ramps, the long chutes getting in and off the interstate. They knew what was coming. They've widened roads. It looks like, Patton could have run tanks down right now. You're going, what in the heck is this? They know what's coming. And they've been real smart on that. But price of land, price of infrastructure has been cheaper down there, and price of homes are down there. And they're catching up. It's not like it's a bargain basement, but there's a tremendous growth area out there. Look at Hutto, same thing. Because what happened in Hutto? Hutto just sat for years. At one point, 2008, 2009, they were talking about 2 schools down there. They had just one school particular, and then another one. They were talking about consolidating students and shutting those schools down. One of them hadn't even opened its doors yet. And now we have this. So it's coming. I think Cedar Park's so low and Round Rock's so low because they were already, if you go back maybe 4 more years, their numbers would have been that high. But a lot of this again is getting landlocked on where we're at. So you want to talk to your, think about it, if you're talking, it's the investor you're talking to. Walk in with these numbers when they're talking about where should I buy. Now, if you're in Georgetown, you might want to take the Kyle off so you're not driving down there so much. But thank God we have 130. Okay. Okay. At some point, I'm going to skip some slides. So this is where I'm. Okay. Cash flow. It's not simply rent minus the mortgage payment when they're looking at cash flow, and a lot of them do. We're not going to talk about cap rate. We're going to hang on. Let me go to a couple more slides here. Okay, so you begin with a realistic number. Folks, if you don't do leasing, call my office. We'll help you do this. But if you do, this is where I see agents really get into trouble. They get optimistic. They're trying to close the deal and they'll kick the rent rate up $100. It's a deal killer. It is a deal killer on this stuff. And if you're trying to build long-term relationships with people who are most likely either gonna refer you or buy multiple properties, get real on these rates, on what's going on. Right now in our office, when we have somebody new coming in, we're bringing them down even a little further. Now what we'll do is we'll knock $50 off what it looks like. We might even list them for $75 higher for 2 weeks. If we get it, we look like a hero. But if we have to start doing that price reduction after 10 days, we're not calling back and getting price reductions, and we've met the objective for the owner. But a lot of this is seasonal too. A lot of this is seasonal. Okay, so what may impact your rental rate? Time of year. How hard is it to rent a home in December? Very easy. Mhm. We rent almost as many homes in December as we do in July. Why does that surprise you, Tom?
Well, I had one listed for 2 months.
They had a bad agent.
Are we done yet?
You are, no, I'm just kidding. When I got into real estate and I was a manager of Federal Express beforehand, we had moved 5 times in 13 years. So when I finally went through that first year of starving, and the next year I came back, and it was at the end of the year, and we were driving somewhere, my wife and I, and the kids were sleeping in the back, and I said, I sold as many properties this December as I did in July. She goes, really? I said, yeah. I said, but it's supposed to be slow. And so she goes, it's not slow. Wow, thanks, Miss Nurse. How do you know anything about real estate, you know? And she goes, well, think about it. Of the 5 times we moved, when did we move? All 5 times were between Thanksgiving and December, and Christmas Day. It's a natural school break, coast to coast. Coast to coast. It's when job transfers happen. It's when someone decides, I've had it, I'm getting a divorce. They want to start off. Things happen. It's just a natural thing in life. Bless you. Bless you. But here's the point. What's it like to rent in October or February? I mean, if you're looking at a graph, it plummets. It plummets. So this is when you want to talk to your owners about what's going to happen. I mean, the reality is the majority of the leasing takes place from May through August, but it's creeping into September. August is a bloodbath. It's like piranha in the water. Why? It's mothers trying to get Johnny into that school, and they can't unless they have a signed lease. And it's really important because schools are important to our kids, and that's what they're doing. But it's huge. And once August comes around and you get about halfway through September, your owners need to know this. Start watching. But when's the best time to buy a bargain on a property?
That time.
How about the owners that had it listed the entire summer and it was overpriced, and you come in the first week of October and make an offer to them, or in February? So it's just, you know, there's good and bad on everything, okay? How many similar properties? You know, for a while, the builders, when they were in trouble, they were all noble. Oh no, we will only allow 10% of the rentals in this area. Until you get out to Hutto, they're going, come on, come on. Buy this property, we'll buy your tenant out to get it in here. I mean, they sold us out like there was no tomorrow. But you want to look at similar properties. How long have they been on the market? What's going on? This is just like anything else that's out there when you're starting to do your CMAs for them, okay? The condition. I have a property, the owner called me and wanted to hire me. He said, my agent, who I knew, and I knew this guy. I've known him from I've known him 20 years. He's a good agent. He said, my agent can't lease my house. I said, what do you mean? He said, we're not getting any showings, we're not leasing anything. He backed up to a golden chick. What do you think the traffic was like coming in there? I mean, 5 feet from his fence was the drive-through window.
Smell.
But literally, you're standing there. Over the fence, I could reach over and shake the person's hand who's in the passenger seat.
Oh my gosh.
So, well, what did your agent tell you? He said, oh, we're $300 overpriced. I said, he's wrong. He said, I knew he was. I said, you're $500 overpriced. There ain't nobody in their right mind that would want to live here unless they're a convict. I mean, it was amazing. Okay? So what's the condition of the property? You want, when your owners are looking at this, and this is something you have to talk to them about, do they have cash, not just to buy the house, but also to pay you to lease the house and to fix the property up? They need to be made aware of that, because some of them are going to go, oh, I didn't think of that. And they'll come back in a year and use you when they've built up some savings. Location, we just talked about that. I teach this in different places. So most of the country does not have MLS for leasing. The majority of the country does not. Parts of Texas don't have MLS for leasing. But this pretty much should be the only place you get your leasing comps. There's some pretty weird places, but their friend, Craigslist is horrible, truly is horrible. Zillow, the worst. Hate Zillow. Just use MLS. There's another thing called Rent-O-Meter a lot of people outside of Texas are using. And it seems to be pretty close. And what they're doing is taking all the FSBOs that are out there and they're throwing that in there and you can get something. But think about it, if you're in Midland, Texas and there's no MLS, how do you do comps? It's tough. It's something we take for granted. We're very fortunate to have. But most places don't. So you need to assume some realistic numbers for vacancy, for maintenance, pool service if they have it. I mean, and things break. Things break. This is what you have to remind them. Talk to your investor. And you're doing this all over when you're having a cup of coffee. Has your water heater broken in the last 10 years? Yes. Okay. Has your garage door opener broken in the last 10 years? Yes or no? Okay. Well, did you take care of the property? Well, heck yeah, I took care of the property. It was mine. I said, well, the tenants won't. To the degree that you will on your own one. And their water heater's going to go out. And right now it's $1,200 to $1,500 to get a water heater. And it's more if it's out in an attic. Because some idiots decided to put water heaters in attics. Okay? And again, you're not trying to scare them. You're trying to educate them. All right? So what do they all want to do? Buy a home warranty. Okay. Maintenance. How much are they going to start budgeting for maintenance?
How much are they going to?
Yeah.
Nothing.
You need to tell them. That's the deal.
Did you just say buy a home warranty?
I said they all want to.
Oh, okay.
Right. Home warranties suck. My opinion. They suck on rentals. Why? Why are they horrible on rentals? How many of y'all sell home warranties to your investors?
Some of my people ask for them,
Right.
but I don't know that tenants sometimes are sharp, or on top of things enough to flag things and call it to their attention. Or checking on things like water heaters or paying attention to the HVAC system.
Right. The property code says the property has to be listed, or the repairs have to be done in X amount of days, and there's very specific time frames. What is the home warranty, and what are they required to come out and do? When? Whenever. What's the homeowner do when the AC's out and they are backed up and they can't come out for 10 days? See what I'm saying? Home warranties aren't restricted by the law. They'll get there when they'll get there, they'll do what they're gonna do. And again, I'm not trying to bash them all, but as far as the management size of this, they are horrible. We're averaging 16 calls per issue to a home warranty. They're horrible, trying to deal with the tenant, get the tenant in, schedule, on and on. I mean, it goes on. And none of them come out and just repair it, it's done. It's always repair. Oh, by the way, there's this additional charge. In the meantime, you pissed your tenants off, which means they're gonna move. Because what's the number one reason tenants move? It's maintenance. Number two reason is communication with the property management company. It's not even rent going up, it's maintenance. And they don't care if the problem's there. It's the communication part of saying, I'm sorry, we just had a tornado come through. Your roof is not the only one, there's 73 others, you might want to stick your head out the window and look. But we heard you. And as long as you've said, I've heard you and you're working on it, most people are reasonable. Well, what's a home warranty gonna do? So, they need to budget. Need to budget. Okay, pool service. I think 150 is cheap. I don't know, I don't have a pool. Is it cheap?
It is.
Do you have a pool?
I do. 25,000 gallon chemistry set.
Oh, that's good. I like that. I thought my neighbor, all my neighbors, I'm the slum there, my kids think, because I don't have a pool, but all my neighbors have pools. I thought they're all paying more than that per month. Okay. Does the client plan to self-manage? If you've been in my class before, I will tell you, I think owners can self-manage. I really do.
What's your opinion on them self-managing if they're not in the area?
Depends what they've set up with their tenant, how they got it set up. Tom, there's a lot of smart people out there. They can do stuff. You know what? There's a lot of smart people who can buy and sell real estate without a real estate agent. No shush. I'm just telling you, that's just the reality. And we get in trouble when we get arrogant and think they have to have us. We can save them money, we can save them time, we can save them headaches. But you know what? You can go home and drink a fifth of bourbon and pull your own tooth. Now, do you want to do it? Okay. But the reality is, somebody from Arkansas has. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. All right. So here's the point. They need to plug in something. They're going to have to plug in something. Are they going to fly in once a year from California? Are they going to drive down from Dime Box and come look at the property? They need to plug in something. And again, that's not for you to make them do it, but tell them, do you think you're just going to sit at home and collect a check all the time? It ain't going to happen. Okay. Okay. This is when I'm part of a big property management group, and so we just did a poll. Yeah, is it? And it was unscientific. But it takes about 50 hours a year. And that's from start to finish for a private owner to manage their own property. And sometimes it's a little less, and if they have a problem tenant, it can be a lot more. A lot more. Because anybody can buy or sell a house if it's free and clear. Free and clear, if the person has a survey, and you're walking in with cash, makes it a lot easier. On and on and on. There's a lot of easy ways to do this. And anyone can manage a house when they have the perfect tenant who never breaks anything, ever. Nothing ever breaks. And they move in and they pay maybe a year up front. It's the first hiccup when you're sitting in Sacramento. How do you handle it? That's the deal. But here's the deal. Even with the perfect tenant, someone has to inspect that house when it's over. So there's going to be a cost involved. And again, they can do this. I think they can. Okay. We're not going to do NOI. All right. We're going to get to a part here, about 6 slides I'm not going to go through. Maybe 20. Okay. All right. So, anybody heard of Carlton Sheets? You're over 30. Okay. This guy made this famous. And this guy didn't sell real estate. He sold real estate programs, and he made more money than a lot of realtors did. And he was very good, but he, generally speaking, was the 1% rule. Does anybody know what that is? Yes, sir.
1%. You buy it and you rent it for 1% of the value you want.
Exactly. That's what's considered a good deal. So if you bought a $100,000 home, your rent should be $1,000 a month. Okay? It's great if you can get it. Can anybody get it now? Few and far between. You might be able to do it if you buy a $200,000 home and put down $75,000 cash, then you can start getting your 1%. Okay? But these used to be good deals, and they're just not out there anymore. Here's exactly what it is. Using the $100,000, that was good. Okay? It's very difficult in most of the country right now that is not There's certain areas of the country that have not come out of this still. And it's pretty rough. But I'm not sure you'd want to invest in those areas either, i.e. Memphis, you know. So, we're not going to look at this one. Hang on. Okay, so who do you want your tenants to be? This is one of your questions. This is what you're going to ask your owners. Who do you want your tenants to be? What type of property fits those tenants? What physical attributes should you look for? Where should you buy the property? And how do you evaluate whether it's a good deal or not? This is what you have to ask your owner, and it's for them to make these decisions. Now, if you've been around here for a while and you're not a brand new agent, you're going to know when the house down the street went for $225 and you see one for $200. You're going to know that's a good deal. But other than that, you're going to have to sit down and look at the rental rate. Also, depend how much these folks want to put down, because that changes a lot of things. But also find out, do they want a property to go up, appreciate? Are they looking for rent? Okay, there is not one right answer. But again, this helps you when you're working with them to start narrowing down the focus of what they want. And by the way, it helps narrow down the focus for you. Do you want to work with them? Because if they're unrealistic, cut your ties. Because anybody that's been in the business more than a year has figured out some people just aren't worth working with. And it's not that they're bad people or they're ugly people or anything else. It's just they don't put beans on your table. So there's no point in working with them. Okay. Now, bonus question. We just talked about that. Remember, do you want to live in the property? Because that can change the entire dynamics of everything. Where they want to live, the school districts, how much they're doing. That is the key question. Do you want to live in that property? Okay. Second bonus question. What is your exit strategy? Are they looking to buy and hold or flip? Okay? So, I really timed this plan. They're not hard. I want to take some of the mystery out of this and not have it where you're working with an investor and you're scared to death. You have some basic questions to talk to. I want advice from you. What else have you seen in your experience from working with investors? What are they looking for?
What are they looking for?
What are they looking for, and how's their mindset when working with you?
Most of the people I work with, all of them have a friend who has bought a house, and they want one.
A rental property?
A rental property, yes. Schools are important to them because they have all gone to good schools themselves, so they want a good school. They want, and I think it's best too to try to avoid carpet and stuff. They do like the low maintenance type homes, and they all want no more than about 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
They want that type of maintenance. Low maintenance. They want low HOAs, and a lot of my clients have directional superstitions, so they don't want them facing certain directions.
That's a code word for?
They're from India.
It's just what it is. It's just what it is, yeah.
And they won't buy houses that tee into
Mhm.
another street, so I have to keep that in mind.
It's knowing your client.
Yeah.
It's knowing your client. Does that make it much tougher for you?
No, because
No,
I know
because
exactly what they want.
You know what they want ahead of time.
Mhm.
You've interviewed them. You've talked with them. Okay. Megan, what have you found?
Initially, I guess, coming out of college and being a little bit more close to that group age range, when I got into the industry, I was working with a lot of parent investors from Southwestern and giving them the opportunities of renting out the whole house or do what my dad did, which was rent out each individual room and have somebody manage that for a much higher amount. So I would consult with parents with that opportunity. But since then, now it's been a lot more land, whether it's developing and cutting up, or just buying and holding and making sure that I know what they need. And I know that's a little bit different than what we talked about today, but it's figuring out what they need.
What they need, what they need.
And what their goals are.
Were many of your investors, when they came in and you started talking to them about the approach of room by room rent, was that novel to some of them?
Absolutely, because it was mostly due to my experience, because so people in here, if you don't know, I went to Southwestern. My dad purchased a home when I was a sophomore. I managed the property kind of hands-on for him while I was in school, and we rented out the 2 rooms. We had parents that had students live in those rooms, and they were like, well, that's a great idea. We're gonna do the same thing.
Right.
So that's how it kind of leveraged and continued into that. And when you have a small campus or a small school like this one, word of mouth is huge.
Big. Right. Okay. Kim, anything? Who's Kim?
She's not here.
She's not here. Okay. They said, ask Kim a question. I'm going, I don't know who Kim is. Okay. Here's what we're going to ask Kim. Where are you? Okay. Has anybody else had any other experience with investors that are different than some of this when they come in? Yes, ma'am.
Working with military investors, they do the house hacking where they live in one side. Preparing them for what it's actually going to be like to live next to tenants is very difficult. And then also the frustration of, I need a PCS, I don't want to deal with this. I feel like talking to them about this is going to be in property management for X amount of years until you have the equity to sell it. That looks like this year date, etc. That's kind of hard because they don't look at that.
Right.
That forward thinking.
Right. Right. Do you think most of them will end up selling when they get to the point, or do you think they'll get used to doing this and see the value?
I think they'll probably sell it at the end of their career.
Do you?
Like I have a colonel and a major friend that they've purchased altogether probably about 10 properties. And they said, I'm just going to keep house hacking until my last duty station. When I retire, I'm going to sell all of them.
Why do they want to sell when they retire?
I guess they think about the lump
Because they haven't
sum,
thought about
but
what they're gonna do after they retire.
probably, they probably just don't want to deal with it, and they want to be somewhere alone. But they could very well use that as, residual income that they have until God takes them.
Yeah. No, we've found some of our owners do the same thing. They'll especially in 08, I'll give you a second, in 08, 09, they're going, oh crap, we're so underwater we can't even see straight. And after about 4 or 5 years, when they got to the point, about a third of them said, we're going to continue doing this. They got through the gun pointed to their head financially time, and they started saying, okay, let's make this work. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I had a friend that did that. He bought a house in every duty station he was at, and he had houses all over the country. And he still has some in North Carolina, but he's been doing exchanges and just buying more houses. And he settled in Belton. Now he's just buying more houses in that area. Yeah.
I think one thing I would say is, if you're new, don't discount yourself. In the first 2 months I was there, I went out with a guy that had several hundred houses. And just be ready for the questions. And the big question that I was like, uh-oh, how long you been in the business? You don't have to be specific, and you don't have to lie. So my answer was, oh, less than a year. That answered the question. He didn't care beyond that. Don't give anything more weight than there is. Just answer the question.
You could have said less than 10 years.
Could have.
But you don't want to look at your watch first. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it feels like forever.
What's that?
Feels like forever.
It does. It's brutal. It's brutal your first. Chris, how long have you been in this business?
Feels like forever. 3 years.
3 years?
Yeah.
Okay. I got in this business and I did my first lease after 9 months and sold my first house after 10. And it was horrible. It was horrible. And so when I came home and told my wife, 3 little girls sitting around the table, I sold a house. First, my wife didn't believe it. And then we kept eating and eating, and so we were putting the dishes away, and she goes, when do we get paid? I said, well, it'll be a little bit. So I'm walking downstairs. She goes, when do we get paid? It'll be a little bit. At that time, it was a new build. They hadn't put the streets in.
Oh, no.
11 and a half months later, I got paid on my $89,000 house. I was at JB, and they took 50% of my commission.
And you're glad to have it.
I was glad to keep the lights on. At that time, God had blessed us a lot. We had started selling. I was Rookie of the Year the next year at JB. And JB's a good company, and I was elated after 22 months. I looked, but and half the people that are here at one point, Coppels were here. A lot of this were working over there. And at one point, I looked up and I go, I'm damn near keeping the lights on, and I'm third in the company. Something's really wrong here. Something's wrong. And Judy and Richard had left. A couple of others had left. David Durham had left. He wasn't there, but we had seen each other. And David said, you need to come over here and talk to us. And so I started interviewing. I knew I had to leave. And I talked to Remax and Keller. And Avis is the one that got me, because I sent her an email at 1:15 in the morning. And it had 25 questions on it. And at 5:35, she answered them all the next morning. Because I got up at 6 and I read it. I go, okay, that's it. She answered all but one. And she goes, I have no idea what you're even talking about on that. I think it's because it was 1:15. I was rambling at that point. And it was amazing, but it was very interesting. All right. This class. All right, so I need, in my house, and if y'all saw it, well, let me digress. In my house, and this is, we're weird, when my wife or the children or I am outside grilling and we say, this is new, okay? It took the girls a little while to get past this. You can be critical and it doesn't hurt feelings, okay? I did not go through some of the ROI, NOI, and a lot of that, because I just don't see that it's a value on a first level class, and sometimes it can confuse the heck out of everybody. But tell me either verbally or what else, what are you looking for that I can make this class better? Because like I said, I don't want you sitting in here, I don't want to be teaching here if it's not going to be a value.
So.
Oh, Tom, please hold back on your opinion.
No, not after your crap. No, I don't have anything bad. I guess my question is, when you were talking to Avis or Scott or Kristen, how long did you tell them it was going to be?
3 hours.
3?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well, Kristen told me 1, so.
Yeah,
Really?
3
Yeah.
on the thing that was.
Well, she just said, are you going to go? It's from 1 to 2. So
Oh.
I was like, sure. So that.
Well, thanks for staying.
Sure.
Bill, what do you think? Your experience, tell me.
I think for beginners, yeah,
Okay.
new agents and stuff like that, this
Okay.
is great. So I think it's a valuable class.
How long have you been doing this, Bill?
9 years.
Okay. This was beneath you. And
Well-
at your experience level, I'll get to you in a minute.
No?
No,
Okay.
no,
I don't
listen
mean that
to
as a
you.
shot.
I
I'm
mean,
just
I
saying
listen
it's
to
more
you.
of a beginner class.
But yeah, I think you're kind of right.
Okay. Megan?
I think this is a great course. You should probably have a part 1 and a part 2. And you have to attend part 1 before you can attend part 2, where you talk about the ROI, the NOI, all of that.
Okay.
Because you're right, it can be
didn't
very
value our
confusing, and you need to advise that, like, and warn people there will be math, and you'll walk them through it.
Okay.
Either you tell them or you don't. I'm just saying that maybe you can. I don't know.
No, I think you just tell them if you want to know ROI and if you want to know all this stuff, this is what this class is. Just be flat out honest and say, this is what this is.
Right.
So, okay,
And
good.
then also, just, I'm very visual, and if you could go, or maybe this isn't the right way of putting it.
Oh, spit it out. You're not going to hurt my feelings.
I need stuff spoon-fed to me. I really like this sheet, but I
Okay.
needed to know what I'm supposed to write in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's such a simple, like, just teaching thing. The material part, though, I know that that's what you're focusing on.
Okay.
I got a lot out of it, so.
Okay, so I should have, I'm not being condescending, I hope. I'm just saying, this is what goes in this blank?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
If you're gonna do this format,
Yeah.
you definitely
I
need to do
say
that.
Yeah, I know some of the last.
I say 86 the sheet, honestly, but
Yep.
I don't know, I would say. alright,
It's
so
not, it's super not necessary.
I was
Pretty
gonna
basic.
piggyback on that and say if you wanna hand out an item of value, like get rid of this and maybe give people the questions,
The 5
because
questions.
then they could use
Okay.
that in the interview
Thank you.
process. And then another, I think, item of value to have would be, like, the title company just sent out the top 50 employers. I think that's fantastic, and if you could get a recent copy of that and hand that out in class, that might be helpful.
Okay.
Because you're kind of giving people a couple tools.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I'll get to you.
From an instructional point of view, I actually respectfully disagree on that. I think that this sheet, though it could be rewritten, is very valuable in the fact that it has blanks, even though I didn't fill in the blanks, because I found it hard to follow the way that the presentation was outlined.
Okay.
However, having us write it in the blanks is actually a really good instructional tool.
Okay, good,
So, get rid of that.
good. Yes, Michael.
I love the market stats that you pulled, that's awesome. You know, even if there was more of that as far as neighborhood pockets where most of your rental properties are.
Why?
Kind of, because there's not duplexes up on every street or on
Right.
every corner.
Okay.
So, like I said, I'm much like Meg, we're very visual,
Uh-huh.
so maybe something along the lines of a map of some sort. And then on part 2, kind of how you were discussing with me, when you're selling a multifamily, here's some things you want to advise your client if they're gonna put it in property management, because you kind of just navigate that. So for part 2, the conversation that we had, I would add some of that stuff to part 2 of
Okay.
this class.
Thank you.
For example, the inspection that you talked about, making sure the deposits are where they are.
That's a huge issue on sales. People forget about the deposits.
Yep.
And then the new buyer, the tenant moves out 2 months later and says, you owe me $1,500. That's what's on here, and no one forgot, or no one mentioned it. Yes, ma'am.
I think also, a lot of people hear about our market here is very good and they're buying from out of the country.
Mhm.
And I don't think anyone should be nervous about selling a house without the buyer seeing it. Because with FaceTime and with videos these days and with stats and everything, it's very, at least that's most of my sales, is people who never see the house.
That is an outstanding point, and I'm glad you brought it up. I would say 15% of our owners have never seen their house until we send them visuals of it. That's a real good point. I'm glad you brought it up. You again, Megan?
Yeah.
Okay.
A glossary of terms. I know I recently started attending and getting together with an investor group, and that first meeting I was like, wait, what are you saying? I've been selling real estate for a while, but what are these terms? What is all of this? So just a generic glossary.
It's good.
Especially for newer agents, it'll be very intimidating, and it's almost a different language.
It is.
So.
Yeah, but it's not hard once you get it.
No, you just need to understand it.
That's exactly right. Chris?
I'd love to see like case studies where maybe you have example properties, something downtown Georgetown near Southwestern, something single family near Dell, something maybe a duplex. And
No, what do you mean by case studies?
where you actually see home purchased for this price, rented at this price,
Got it.
average maintenance,
Okay.
this amount, rented to this type of family or this type of tenant,
Yeah.
and comparing the return rates on those different things and the risks from those. I mean, it's the stuff that we talked about.
Right, but you'd like to see more actual stuff,
Actually,
examples.
also a roundtable,
Right.
Real
or
life.
mastermind with some of the agents here as well, working, like some of the agents in here in addition to yours.
I didn't hear the first part, I'm sorry.
It could be like a roundtable,
Okay.
other agents discuss it as well.
Okay, that's good. Who else? Somebody? Yes, ma'am.
How about incorporating some of your property management services so that we can, you know, share that with the buyers?
Yeah, it's not that class though. That's, my feeling is it's not that type of class.
Really?
It's just working with investors. I mean, they're gonna do what they're gonna do. But, and
Bring
who
a
in this class
status.
didn't know I was a property
Yeah,
manager?
bring some, bring some like flyers and stuff though, 'cause
Right.
you'll still
Yeah.
get business even though you're not promoting it, it'll still,
Okay,
we still
I
want
didn't
okay, I
it.
appreciate it. You didn't know?
Yeah. No, I thought you worked here. When I signed up for the class.
Okay.
I'm not disappointed, I'm just.
The property management class is good though.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's nice.
Okay, thank you. No, I extremely valuable that y'all took the time to do this. I appreciate it. Because y'all have been places, you know, we've all sat through crap classes. And so I wanted to meet the needs. And some of these might be separate classes like y'all are suggesting. So that's a big deal. All right. Is there any other classes that y'all want.
Besides the part two?
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
How many of you guys have that internal rate of return questions from investors?
I've never had it.
That's why I was sitting here.
Yeah.
When you started skipping it, I understand why you were skipping it. But, oh, you have? Oh, I'm sorry. How many times?
Well, just once, and what I told her was I'd be more than happy to do it for you, but first you need to buy a buyer's rep agreement saying you're gonna use me as your agent. And I never heard from her.
How about you, Bill? Have you had them asked?
No, I've never had, I mean, I know what it is.
Right, I do too.
And so.
No, I think it's important to know
Well,
how
I
to do
guess
that,
my
because
thing-
for new investors, I mean, how do you know, you have a lot of young millennials that have a lot of money. And so if they've never invested in an investment property, you need to guide them on that.
Okay. How about if we did like an hour class, broke all three down real fast, gave you examples, show you where to go, and then told you, if you get in a bind, pull it up, it's gonna be here.
Okay.
Yeah.
X one a month, but you're never gonna use it again, but if you are, you got it in your hip pocket.
Exactly.
Would that be
Well,
something?
I guess that's what I was about to say,
Okay.
back to Megan's point, her point. We might need to know there's something called, if someone says,
What's my ROI?
yeah,
Exactly.
okay, you have a clue, oh, look at, oh, here it is.
Yeah.
And also you know that may not be the most important thing, and you advise them that because they may have heard somewhere that
Right.
you need
Yeah,
to
they're
do
new.
that.
They just got out of a Carlton Sheets thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand. Okay, good deal. Anything else? Good. All right, let me, y'all can leave at any time, all right? Let me tell you something we're getting ready to do with my property management company. Because I'm asking, and this is not promoting it, this is honestly asking for advice, okay? I started looking at, probably about 6 months ago, why wouldn't, and I don't mean this arrogantly, I looked at it as a business owner. Why wouldn't people choose us, okay? And then I was talking to some agents, and then I was interviewing my staff on what are the questions they continue getting. And it was the same question over and over and over again. How much what's your charge?
Yeah, cost versus value.
What's the cost, exactly? How long's your contract? How do you handle this? How do you handle that? And if you start thinking about it, in a minimum, they're investing $250,000. They're coming in here. I mean, 250 is not uncommon. So I started thinking about, if I'm giving somebody $250,000 worth of asset, maybe I'd like to know a little more about him, and I think my fear would be up there. So starting Friday, I guess, we're going to do some changes. And one is, we're gonna offer, we've never done this before. I honestly want advice. This is not me promoting my business. We're gonna offer 3 tiers. One, they want us to lease the house only. Okay, that's it. They're gonna manage it themselves. Again, if you've been in my class, you've heard me say, I think people can manage their own properties. Okay, so that's gonna be a leasing service. Bang, it's right there. The second thing is standard management. Just what we do. We manage the property, start to finish, we place the tenant, or one of y'all will place the tenant and we'll manage it all the way to the end. The third is a premium product, because what are your clients scared of? What if the tenant stops paying? What if we have to evict them? Well, I bought an insurance policy that will cover them from anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks. If a tenant dies in the property and we can't they can't move somebody else in, they get 8 weeks of coverage of rent. So we have this package out there, so we've gone to tiered pricing. Now explain that. When you're with a client, explain all that to them. It gets a little challenging. So I started thinking, everybody that calls wants to know how much we charge. When I go to Amazon, it says how much you charge. So starting, I think, Monday or Tuesday, depending on the guy, we're gonna have our pricing on our first page. How big of a deal will that be for you all? Okay. We're also, they don't know us, just like I don't know anyone else. We're gonna get rid of a 12-month management contract. That's pretty standard in the industry. We're gonna go 30 days. And it renews month to month until they fire us, or we fire them, or they sell the house. Automatic renewal, it's only be a 30-day contract. Yes, Bill?
So, my world's different.
I understand.
One day, one of my investor clients sat down and said, and she's getting new, and she only had one property. She goes, who's the best management company in town? And I said, So I called other investors and asked them, and the ones I would suggest
Mhm.
they were using, not one person was happy with their management company.
Why?
That, my thing wasn't really to ask them that.
Okay, I didn't know if they volunteered.
detail. I called them in conversation, would
Okay.
go, who do you use? XYZ company. Do you like them? No. Okay. And I know, you know, and some of these people are in service industries and, you know, they're doing other businesses and stuff. So this isn't just, you know, mar and pop kettle.
Right, right. Folks, if y'all need to leave. No hard feelings. I appreciate you being here. Thank you very much for the feedback. Go ahead, Bill.
So I guess I just wonder,
So what does that have to do with me offering a 30-day
well,
guarantee?
I guess how many people are gonna wake up one day and go, I just don't like you. However, I know you.
About
I
once a
think-
quarter, they do anyway.
Well, I was about to say, with you though, it's kind of, if you don't like me, tough, you know.
No, we let them go, because here's the way I'm
Right,
looking
I
at
know how
it.
you
I can't have my staff dealing with somebody that hates us,
Yeah,
right or wrong.
Right.
I can't have the staff dealing, we just let them go. So why don't we just put it on the front end?
I think it's a good,
Thank you.
I guess with you, it's a good idea. Because you're that way, you're good with that.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll tell you who probably your best fans are agents. Because I've asked around in the past, who are the best property management? And you and Waters, there's one called Waters. And I'll tell you, the downside that I've had with Mars Hills, but I think everybody does it, is instead of putting the first qualified person in the property, it just says, it's like they're gathering
They do.
application fees, and I hate that
Yeah,
for my clients.
And there's a rationale for them doing that. I agree with you, I don't think it's good for the client, but I'm not criticizing the company. There's a rationale for them doing it, we just choose not to do it that way. Okay, so,
It just feels sleazy.
I
Yeah.
think the customizable option is really good, and you need to make sure that you let them know it's tiered options, but it's customized to their needs. And then if you're gonna be pushing that out, you need to, or maybe not you, but somebody in your office needs to make sure that you're coming to Round Rock and Georgetown and whatever offices bring you a lot of business, and let them know about that so that they can do a lot of that informing of our clients for you. Because like she's saying, I think you do have a big presence and a lot of people on your side here, and making sure that you educate the realtors in addition to the public and the
Okay.
website about that.
all right, thank you, appreciate it.
I'm uncomfortable with you going 30 days, I don't know why.
Yeah, how do you do that?
I don't like that.
Well, the problem is,
For
guys, he does that anyways. I mean, if someone starts giving him.
Have you ever worked, and if you've been in the business for a while, have you ever walked out of a listing and just go,
Not with my time.
my woman's intuition says, or whatever, and then 2 weeks later, you're going, oh boy, was this wrong?
But I mean, how can you budget for your business on a month-to-month basis, knowing that you might be fired by half the people if they're not into it?
Because they won't fire me, because it's our
Well,
service.
I don't believe they would either, but you really can't secure your,
Well, how does
business-wise, I think it's.
how does Amazon, I'm not Amazon, but how does, understand the theory, how does Amazon say, send it back? Send it back.
If you don't like it.
You don't like it, send it back. They don't even ask you why sometimes. Doesn't fit, wrong color, send it back. It's that point of, here's who we are, we're not gonna be something else. I'm not Walmart and I'm not Neiman Marcus, okay? And if you expect one or the other, you're not gonna get it. And why do I wanna be married to you for the next 12 months?
I was a commercial banker for a long time. I'm just seeing into the fact that I can't give you a loan if you don't have contracts back up here. That's just what I'm looking at.
No, I appreciate that. Good.
What about
I think it's great.
quarterly?
Oh, I think it's great. I just don't see how you do it.
Quarterly, I mean,
Appreciate you trying to protect my business. Bill, thanks for being
See
here.
you, sir.
Chris, what'd you say?
I think it's great. I like you're putting your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
And standing by your product and saying, if you don't like it, find somebody else. It's fine.
It'll definitely set you apart.
Yeah.
Well, we're doing $1,000, we're not charging pet, well, we do, because it's amazing. We had so much pushback because we got rid of the pet deposit. We had pushback from tenants. We're going, what? What do you mean you want to pay a pet deposit? So we have some minimum like $100 pet deposit for a pet. Well, we tell the owners, we're gonna pay up to $1,000 after the tenant's security deposit has been used. And after we take out normal wear and tear, which we have to, we'll pay additional $1,000 pet damage if it's needed. And we guarantee the owner that,
When did you start doing
Why
that?
I was gonna say, yeah,
about 90 days ago.
And why?
That's,
Yeah.
What does your owner think then? Are they pretty pleased?
Yeah, I'd be thrilled.
Okay, because they're getting $1,000 up to 1,000
You're just
instead of
saying stuff that
300.
sounds too good to be true.
So is it because you got that insurance product, you're able to provide that, or is that
Yeah.
just something?
Because I charge a pet admin fee to the tenant.
Yeah, as an owner, I
Oh,
love
okay,
it, just
there's
as a
that.
business, I'm just thinking, wow, that's.
Yeah.
So does it help you get tenants in there, is that why?
Yeah, because it reduces you start thinking what a tenant's paying coming in.
Yeah.
That's
It's phenomenal.
$5,000.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
do you,
first month, next month deposits, it's crazy, it's like, who has five, yeah.
do you charge a monthly to the tenant for the pet?
Pet,
You do
yeah.
pet rent?
Yeah, no, I don't do pet rent. No pet rent. Rent means it goes to owner.
Oh.
So is that,
Have you been in my class to understand I have 3 married daughters?
Yes.
so is the pet thing only if they do the premium product?
No.
Okay, I just.
It's on second tier or third, because the first tier is just lease only.
Yeah.
We don't do anything with them.
Cool.
So, I mean, we cut them loose, it's all fine, so.
So if I see one of your, something in, a listing in MLS and
Mhm.
it has, goes to you guys for the check,
Mhm.
to check the tenant out. If there's a pet deposit, it means you're just doing the leasing.
There's a minimum amount if it says pet deposit. It might be, I think it's $200 right now that you get in. But that's not even, I don't think that's per pet. And then the other that we have offered, and we're just doing this out, I wasn't drinking when I came up with this. We're offering a tenant guarantee that any owner will only pay a leasing fee once every 12 months. So if the tenant leaves, we'll pay the leasing fee again to get it leased. And then we have a happiness guarantee, which my company hates the name of, so we're gonna have to change that. That if they start with us and they don't like us after 90 days, we'll refund all 90 days worth of management fees back.
No. What? No.
Yes.
All right, let me tell you a story. Years ago, I used to do wedding video.
Mm-hmm.
And I would do it for like $100, because I was just getting started. And everybody would go with the higher price because they didn't think I knew what I was doing. That's how I'm feeling here. You have a good product. Do not cheat yourself out of all this.
Oh, I run the numbers, I'm not cheating myself.
He's got the numbers down.
I know, but
Yes, ma'am.
I just feel like it's.
I think it's great marketing, because that satisfaction guaranteed, there's been studies done that if you tell me that I'm not in the contract, automatically, they did this with pest companies. So automatically, I don't feel like, well, I'm not stuck with you. I am a little happier. Well, this guy is willing to please me. And it's actually that reverse psychology that the client feels like no matter what, you're going beyond to be pleased versus all these other folks.
Well, our culture is we're going to provide service. And so one of the things is when we hire somebody from another property management company, I'm not putting anybody else down. I'm really not. Is that they need to understand, they'll get, oh, the owners are our client. Oh, the tenants are our client. I'm going, what about the realtors that bring you business? And they have to stop and think. I said, they're your client. I said, what about our vendors? They're the ones at 2 o'clock in the morning putting a water heater in. I said, these are our clients. So if we've been running the business 13 years that way, that, service is service. But then we're just trying to take it to a different level of, well, all right, let's put our money where our mouth is. We know we can do this. So that's it. The last thing we're doing, and this is what we're going to get pushback. So if you've worked with a tenant, I need feedback on this. So you move into one of our units. You are going to choose 1 or 2 options, and it's mandatory. You do not move into our units unless you choose one. And one is $27 a month, and the other is $21 a month, and you get to choose, okay? So the first one is we're requiring every tenant to provide $100,000 liability insurance to the owner. Think about this. When you've rented a car, do you have to get insurance? Does that insurance cover you? No, it's in case you're in Muleshoe, Texas, and some hay truck hits you. You walk away, you get to leave the Buick sitting on the side of the road, and you go home, and Hertz or Budget are taken care of. But you paid for that insurance. If you have a mortgage right now, you have to have insurance, and if you stop that insurance, Wells Fargo will force place an insurance on you. That's to take care of Wells Fargo. A benefit is they'll rebuild your house, but the reality is it's to take care of Wells Fargo, correct? So why are we not requiring tenants to take care of owners?
So is this renter's insurance?
No, it's owner's liability insurance, and that's an excellent question. So we started looking at the majority of our tenants, all of our tenants. We have never had a tenant move in and said they weren't going to get renter's insurance. It goes hand in hand with, my dog has never bit anybody. Yeah, right. Okay. But they all say that. And then when something happens, they call. And what I found is tenants, I don't mean they're stupid, they're ignorant of what renter's insurance is. They don't get it. And most of the renter's insurance out there is crap. It is crap. So what's standard right now is $10,000, that's coverage, okay, and $1,000 deductible. I have 3 daughters. Walk into any one of those rooms, they have $9,000 worth of shoes in there alone, you know. It's phenomenal. So we bought a product that will provide $100,000 liability for the owner, and it will provide $20,000 worth of contents insurance for a tenant, and only has a $500 deductible, okay? In addition to that, if they pay free, they don't have to pay a subcharge like the pay lease or anything, $295 a month. If they pay through this new portal, we will report their credit as good credit, and it's the only company in the United States that reports to all 3 credit bureaus. Most of them only report to one. Which lender is going to use what? Yes, ma'am.
Is this in, I'm trying to just fully understand, this is in lieu of renter's insurance or in addition?
They can have renter's insurance themselves, but I'm giving them, I'm charging them also for this policy.
What's
This is mandatory.
$27.
It's mandatory. It's 27.
But you're increasing their credit basically
Yeah.
with this product.
Yeah, and they get a filter sent to their house every quarter on their front porch. And if they have 5 different filter sizes, they get 5 different filters. Now, if they have owner's liability insurance, they have to take the $21 product, and we just take that out. But they can't buy this out there. How much pushback am I going to get from your tenants?
If you promote that you're increasing their credit and as long as you tell them what they're getting out of it,
I think
I
it's
don't.
gonna be fine.
How are you advertising?
I would lead with the filters and the credit.
Well, I just,
Yes,
Yeah.
filters in the credit.
Lead with
I
the
know that's-
filters and the credit, then explain the fee.
Bingo.
Otherwise, it looks like a surcharge on there.
Yes.
right,
Cause
okay.
you should, yeah, you left the bottom,
And some
bottom
of
line
them,
up front.
the rent is, they're stretching it themselves to begin with.
I understand. No, and that's a big deal. I don't like bait and switch. So we're trying to, and this is where we're having a challenge. When they put into the application, they're not reading this crap. Nobody's reading it. You know, when you get a new computer, or it says, are you gonna read all that stuff?
Because they're really scrambling just to come up with.
They are,
that
and
fee
my heart goes out to them. I mean that
on some
sincerely.
of them.
But I tell them, and I've written this document, it tells them 3 times, here's what we're gonna do, and if you can't agree to this, do not submit your application. Now, what I need is the agents to be educated and help them, but the agents aren't doing it. They're not. But I can only be so fair. You have a question?
So from what you're saying, because I just want to get clear too, it's more than just the homeowner's insurance. You said they're also getting 20,000 of contents insurance.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like a built-in renter's insurance. 'Cause
It is
people
built
don't-
in, and they won't be able to buy renter's insurance for the difference of $7 a month. They will not be
Well,
able to buy
then,
it.
I would lead with that,
Right.
that we are requiring this renter's insurance. It also insures the landlord from.
I can't legally require renter's insurance.
Whatever this is called.
You're providing.
I'm providing. Now, and again, I look at every fee we have and go, would my 2 daughters and their son, how would this be treating them? And this is a value to them. It really is.
Other than dog bites, what other liabilities do you see homeowners suffer due to?
Slip and falls,
Oh, okay.
slip and falls. I've had cabinets fall down on top of them.
Okay.
So educating the agents on this, you're gonna be able to win over additional agents because those people that are getting people that are, say they're coming in, they're living here for a year or 2, you're increasing their credit and being able to help them purchase.
Yeah, that's huge.
So it's a win-win there.
Average, according to this company, and they've been around for a long time, that we're buying this at. The tenants can't go to them directly and buy it. You have to be a property manager to be able to buy it, and you have to, they came out and grilled us. And we just barely made the cut with 600 properties.
Wow.
I mean, so they're pretty tight. But the tenant can't buy this. But they just, it's too cheap for them to buy. It's what we're giving. They can't buy this at all. So, yes, ma'am.
Does it increase the credit for each person on the lease? So say you have a couple, one's credit is a little better than the other.
It'll do husband and wife. It has, we're trying to work through roommate situation. That's where we're having some issues, and we're looking to see. I've really put a big push on that, so we don't know how it is, but at least one. After 12 months, the scores have ranged from 34 to 64 points they've gone up.
For some people, that's huge.
It makes a difference. And as we know, one, it's the house, but two, it's their auto insurance. It's everything they do is based off their credit.
Saving money from
Right.
there on out for any major purchases.
Right. So I just was thinking about it. Okay. Y'all can leave anytime, and I appreciate very much your value of telling me this. It helps me. Because I hang around property managers and they were stupid.
Why can't you go to higher renters insurance as apartments?
They're saying they are, but what it is really liability insurance for the owner in case there's a fire. So we're being very clear, like, we don't want them to go, oh, I'll get the 100,000, and then we're going, this doesn't help you. If the owner's tree falls on their car, the owner's not required to pay for it. That's called an act of nature. But the renter's insurance would help them. So that's what we're trying to do, is really provide a value to them. But you're right, all of them are going to this. All the apartments are.
Can I steal you for those fees?
What fees?
What I should prepare my plan for, as far as inspection fees, etc. Or do you need to run that with your team?
I need to run it by the team. What I need.
Right, I know that you prefer, and you have it set up where people can do their application online.
Right.
We ran into a situation the other night, I don't think y'all are managing this one, I think they're just doing the background checks and everything. A non-English speaking tenant, and had no internet access, so we did everything on paper.
Were they Mexican?
Yes.
Okay.
So, have you, because you said you have it in 3 different places, I'm guessing that's on your online application that this is required. How can we, do we have documentation? Is there something that I can print off of your website that just shows that so that we can hand that to them?
Not yet. This is all gonna happen in 3 weeks or less. All of this. But that helps me because half of my team is based in Mexico. And they're my employees that are in Mexico. And we have been looking at more and more of, and I'm just being straight out. You come to this country, you should speak English, all right? I know there's a transition. You come to this country and you're scared to death of signing something. And it's illegal for them to sign a lease that's not in English, okay?
Right.
But I think showing them stuff like this is helpful. On our website, some of the houses that we do, we have one of the guys down there go back over and voice over what I've done and tell them the whole thing in Spanish. I'm moving more and more towards Spanish.
Because that's been very helpful.
Yeah. I want to move way more towards that.
Yeah.
I grew up in Texas, Mexicans everywhere.
Yeah.
My son-in-law's a Mexican, my grandson's a Mexican.
Yeah.
I get it. No, I get it, you know?
We'll give you a call with
Thanks.
those investors.
Appreciate it, thank you.
We were fortunate in that the son spoke English and he was here to,
Good.
you know.
But you know what? It's scary. If I went over to Germany or Italy tomorrow and I'm signing a contract, I'd at least like to see it in English.
Yeah.
And I'll understand. I'll sign an Italian contract. But I want to be able to, we're moving toward that.
Okay, good deal.
Yeah.
Because we see that a lot, like you said.
Do you, so tell me about you. What do you manage?
Yes.
I mean, do you have apartments? Do you have
No apartments.
So,
Do you want some?
Possibly. What do you got?
I've been contacted by a friend of mine up in Wichita Falls who has 2 apartment buildings at under 100. He can't get a big property management company to do them because they're under 100, but they're over 85.
Okay, can we wait 1 second? Okay, thanks.
It's not selling.
Because I won't pay attention.
So, but if you're getting into the, you know, $800,000 home, so there are people that have, my husband's an insurance adjuster, and he works for a company that, like, we don't even qualify to be insured by them because you have to have at least $1 million worth of insurable property to be insured by this company. So he deals with the higher end a lot, where people go, oh, I've got this one-of-a-kind floor, it's got 1 ring damage, I can't get it anymore, we have to replace the whole house of floor. So he's had a lot of experience with the different woods. The higher end woods that have more than 1/4 inch of actual wood on top, you can do what they call screeding and then refinish it. In general, wood floors are not great with pets. you know, as far as big pets, especially little pets, their nails don't do much damage, but I sold a home in Lake Bluff. I love my clients and I know them because of pets, but they had 3 dogs and 3 cats.
I know that's probably
With
not
cats, you can cap their nails. With dogs, you just, you have to keep them trimmed and not running around the house. But they're still gonna, like my dog, I have one dog who's, I have one dog who I've never had to clip her toenails. She just, they don't grow very fast and her walking around is enough to keep them vile.
Okay.
One dog.
Yes,
I-
sir.
I
Now you have
really
my
watch
full
her
and
nails.
undivided
So,
attention.
and he asked me, he works in the apartment industry.
Okay.
And,
And she, the one
In
who
Wichita
calls,
Falls?
no,
Oh.
in Dallas.
In Dallas?
Yeah.
she calls.
Did I say Wichita Falls?
Yeah.
That's not what I'm thinking of. Sherman, I'm sorry.
Sherman, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I used to live in Wichita Falls.
Okay.
That's what I was asking.
So, and my brother works in the apartment industry. He makes apartment websites all across the country.
Oh.
For apartment
Yeah,
buildings.
so they replaced
He
the
charges
floors.
like $500 each.
They're
and he has like
moving,
800
they're selling
properties
it, but
across
she's
the
put it on the
country.
market.
Good
I
for
mean,
him.
he's making, yeah, he's doing well.
Good.
People ask him all the time if he'll do management, because there's a big need, and I have a buddy that has the 2 in Sherman,